Chapter 1. Her name is Ai Lizzie. From now on, she will be your little sister, Luoya. In a luxurious living room, a handsome but somewhat skinny middle-aged man was holding the hand of a silver-haired little girl as he introduced her to a short black-haired boy who was wearing an expensive suit. The man's name was Ka Dia Akat, a noble of the Saint Maester Empire, a marquis, the chief wizard of the paladins, the head of the Akat family, and also the father of the little boy Luoya Akat, who was less than 10 years old. Luoya Akat, 9 years old this year, the only son of the marquis family. His facial features were handsome, and his black hair was slightly long. He was 1.4 meters tall, which was slightly short for a well-nourished noble at this age. His skinny body showed that he didn't exercise enough. The noble education he received from a young age made him calm and quiet. His first impression was that he was a good type. However, these were all appearances. In reality, Luoya was a notorious bully. Although he was young, he had a lot of bad deeds. Even the servants in the marquis mansion would change their expressions when they mentioned him. And it was precisely this kind of young thug who was currently staring intently at the girl who was about to become his adopted sister. The golden pupils that he inherited from his mother constricted and emitted a radiance. His expression was abnormally ugly and his body was as stiff as a stone statue in a garden fountain. Luoya, what are you doing? You scared her. The middle-aged man who saw Ai Lizzie shrink back in fear because of Luoya's expression was a little embarrassed. He could only lower his voice and yell at his son, who was only passable on the outside, but naughty on the inside. Is it necessary? Is it necessary? Ai Lizzie is good-looking, but you are the son of a marquis. Where are the manners that the etiquette teacher taught you? Ka Dia Akat's white face was a little red because of his son's embarrassing behavior. He raised his hand and wanted to slap this brat, but just as he raised his hand, he thought of his deceased wife. After hesitating for a moment, he could only sigh. Ahem, Ai Lizzie, it seems that your Luoya Gij is tired. It's my fault for making him do so much spell training. Marquis Ka Dia pulled down his old face to mediate for his son while gesturing to the maids beside him. The sensible maids immediately took Luoya to rest, and the girl's reluctant voice sounded behind the little boy. It's fine. It's not father's fault. Luoya Akat was currently doubting his life. Because he had transmigrated, or rather, he had just recalled the memories of his previous life. Luoya, male, female, 20 years old, a university student in the Celestial Empire. He did not have a strange family background, nor did he have a 1,000-layer pancake love experience. He was just an ordinary person. If there was anything different about him, it would probably be that he was more of a homebody. He usually liked to read novels, watch dramas, and play some homebody games. Cough, cough. Everyone who understood. But such an ordinary person, who would have thought that he would be so unlucky as to be caught in a traffic accident and slip into the army of transmigrators and become one of them. Thus, he became Luoya Akat, the only son of the ancient Marquis Akat of Saint Mestre, one of the 3 strongest countries in the continent. He was the next head of the family, a true aristocrat. If he did not know anything, facing this second life, Luoya would probably be happy to be the foolish son of a rich landlord, squandering to his heart's content and doing whatever he wanted. But unfortunately, Luoya knew something. The Heathcliff family has it. Sorophia has it as well. Lucas Ackman, if this person also has it. Crash. The sound of a heavy book falling to the ground sounded like a death knell striking Luoya's heart. There really is. Haha, it's over, it's all over. In the study, the black-haired little boy held his head in disbelief. He could only feel his blood pressure skyrocketing, and his whole body was dizzy as if he had a cerebral thrombosis. Did I push butter into a pot of oil? After comparing a large amount of information, Luoya confirmed that he had reincarnated into the world of a game that he once played, and became a great villain. Luoya remembered the name of the game was called Eye of the Recorder. It was a rather strange dating game, and the content was rarely seen. There were many characters to be defeated, and the illustrations were quite exquisite. Unfortunately, it was not popular. There were many reasons why it was not popular, but there were two main reasons. One was that it was age-oriented, and the other was that the plot was often ambiguous and unclear. The progress of this game was extremely strange. It was measured in years. If that was all, it would be fine. However, as a script, it often skipped the plot. Wars would break out of nowhere, and the players would fight without knowing what was going on. Sometimes, the characters would even die, including the female lead. Luo Ye's evaluation of this game was that it was strange. The scriptwriter was like a recorder with limited information, and he did not fill in the gaps at all. He was only responsible for writing down what he knew and showing it to the players. Luo Ye played this trashy game because although the character with the same name as him was a villain, he was a handsome guy. For some reason, he was inexplicably immersed in the game, and the female characters were too beautiful. Chapter 2. The name I of the recorder was a strategic galga. In this story, although Ai Lizzie was Luo Ye's adopted sister, she was bullied and hated him to the core. In the final battle, she followed the principle of revenge and chopped off his head. The cute little boy with black hair sat on a high chair made of black pagoda wood. He stared at the corner of the table in front of him for a while, repeatedly thinking about one thing: if I kowtow to death now, would it be too late to change the character? Luo Ye covered his forehead, his little face wrinkled, he wanted to cry out loud. What the hell, are you messing with me? It's fine if you don't give the protagonist the transmigration, but you actually gave it to the antagonist? And it's a public antagonist. You can even give me a side quest. What should I do? My adopted sister is already here, can the chopper be far away? Calm down, this is the time to calm down. Luo Ye gasped for breath, trying to suppress his emotions with an adult's experience. Don't panic when you encounter a big problem, because panic is useless. Repeatedly chewing on this poisonous chicken soup, Luo Ye felt his condition improve a little. He rubbed his face, trying to find a way to break out of this situation. As the saying goes, everything has a root, there is no love without a reason, and there is no hatred without a reason. Ai Liziakat, the son of Tsangyin whom I met once, hates me to the core after 10 years. Why is that? Luo Ye began to rack his brain to recall the story in the game. He remembered that in Ai Lizi's side quest, although it was only a few sentences, it did mention the reason why she hated Luo Ye. After summarizing for a long time, Luo Ye thought of 3 points. First, Luo Ye Akat bullied Ai Lizi since young. Because of his father's pampering, this brat could do whatever he wanted. When he was young, it was common for him to abuse Ai Lizi who was adopted. Secondly, Ai Lizi was the only daughter of a baron before she became the adopted child of the Akat family. The baron died in a battle while protecting Luo Ye's father. Thirdly, the Akat family fell from grace. Their adopted daughter, Ai Lizi, was traded away by Luo Ye as a bargaining chip in an exchange of benefits. Although the game didn't explain the details, judging from Ai Lizi's beauty, tisk, this Luo Ye is not only disdainful, but there's also something wrong with his brain. Don't tell me he's an ox chief. Wouldn't it be better to leave it for him to push? Besides, that's Ai Lizi. Do you know how strong she is in the later stages? Son of Tsangyin. Undying under the moon. Luo Ye scratched his head speechlessly. He was stunned by the other Luo Ye's actions. At the same time, he ranked the 3 reasons in his mind. Among the 3 reasons, the second one was obviously weaker. The most important one was the first 3, and the third one was the most important one. In terms of difficulty, the first reason was easy to avoid as long as Luo Ye didn't bully or abuse her. The second reason was directly given up. The most problematic one was the third one. My family fell from grace. Why? The little boy on the high chair stared blankly at the third reason written on the paper. He was dumbfounded. Only then did he remember that his family had indeed fallen from grace after 10 years. This was also one of the reasons why Luoya, the son of a marquis, became a cultist and became a great villain. Luoya raised his head and looked around the comfortable and elegant study room. Flaming wood from the Glen Hill, leather scrolls from the Elson Highlands, glass bookcases that were the most popular among the nobles in the holy capital, and incense burning quietly in the meditation room that was about the same price as gold. The elegant fragrance in the study room drifted into the boy's nose. He couldn't help but shiver in excitement. This kind of family fell from grace. Are you kidding me? But the game wouldn't lie. The Akkad family had indeed fallen from grace in the game. No matter how unbelievable it was, he could only accept reality. But this wasn't important now. The important thing was to find a way to stop all this from happening. The boy in front of the desk frowned and crossed his arms as he began to think. But the more he thought, the more despair he felt. There seemed to be none. Luoya couldn't think of a way to stop his family's fall. This matter wasn't explained in detail in the game. What could a 9-year-old kid do without the advantage of information? He wasn't an AI lazy. He was just an ordinary little brat. Other than being handsome, he had nothing. What should I do? Should I just wait for death? An invisible fear shrouded Luoya like a shadow, making him disheartened until a clear bell rang in his heart. Ding, generating system. Chapter 3. There's hope for me. A loud cheer came from the study. The young man in the room was like a warrior who had just escaped from a hopeless situation. He looked at the system screen with his eyes wide open. Ding, system has been generated. Welcome to the clan revitalization system, it's here. It's really here. When Luoya saw the words, clan revitalization, he was so excited that tears welled up in his eyes. As expected of his personal system, it was tailor-made for him. Originally, he thought that the Akkad clan was hopeless, but the system sent him a pillow. What was there to be afraid of? Let me see what's there. World scan complete. Host detection complete. Favorability exchange system complete. Gold coin purchase system complete. Host panel generated, name, Luoya Akkad gender, male age, 9 bloodline, black iron title, none level, F, sorcerer apprentice, basic spells, micro heat wave, invisible hand, incomplete. F is fine, but it's still decreasing. Rojas stared at his panel and looked at it twice. He had to sigh and admit that he was a weak chicken. 9 years old and he was still a sorcerer apprentice. Come on, your father is the chief sorcerer of the Paladin Legion. The young man held his forehead and felt depressed about his laziness before he regained his memory. He also tried out the 2 basic spells. Micro heat wave was a gust of warm wind that blew out from his palms. It was probably at the level of a dryer. As for invisible hand, it was a skill that used magic to grab something from a distance. As for why there was the word incomplete in the skill. Luoya looked at the middle finger of the invisible hand floating in front of him. His face twitched as he felt insulted. Forget it, these are not important. With the help of the system, why worry about not reaching the peak of life? Let's take a look at the exchange area first. Luoya calmed his mind and focused on the system again. Favorability exchange area, you can collect favorability from nearby intelligent creatures and convert it into points to exchange for facilities and items to revitalize your family. Favorability can include kinship, friendship, love, reverence, longing, and many other forms. The exchanged items are non-refundable. Gold coin purchase area, you can use your accumulated wealth in the real world to purchase personal items, including combat, life, profession, and other items. Gold coins cannot be recovered, please be cautious. The items in the favorability exchange area and the gold coin purchase area will be refreshed once a month. There may be preferential measures on special days or periods. It is recommended that the host pay close attention. Preferential measures? He's quite approachable, but that's it. That's it. Luoya opened his eyes wide and looked back and forth between the two exchange areas, but he couldn't find anything else. Wait a minute, that's not right. Doesn't your system have any main storyline missions that give rewards? A side quest is fine too. Killing a chicken at the village entrance will give you a pair of 5-speed shoes, and hunting a horse at zoo ends will give you a mental resistance. Isn't that the norm? Chapter 4. This is a battle of life and death. In Marquis Kadia's study, Luoya stroked the badge on his chest with a determined expression, just like Knight Pender stroking his sword before a battle. Today was the first day of Akkad's adoption of AI Lizzie. Without a doubt, it was an important day, but because he had recovered his memories of his past life, Luoya had already ruined their first meeting. Sigh. I shouldn't have done that. Why was my reaction so slow? With my appearance, although it's not enough to kill at first sight, it's more than enough to leave a good impression. Luoya observed the black-haired, golden-eyed boy through the glass. He pinched his chubby, but handsome little face to confirm one point. Yep, I'm a handsome boy. And according to the situation in the game, his parents' beauty genes are very stable. This lord will continue to be handsome, and will become more and more handsome. But he didn't know if it was an illusion, but after wearing this badge, he seemed to be more pleasing to the eye. The boy used his little finger to touch the silver badge, thinking as he mentally prepared himself. Although the first impression wasn't very good, there was still a chance to remedy it. With the help of this thing, he had to make a good impression on AI Lizzie. He had to kill the sudden death flag in the cradle. But first, Luoya felt that he had to find someone to test it out. Sister Anna, you've been waiting for a long time. Are you tired? The door of the study was pushed open, and the cute boy looked up with a smile. He threw himself into the arms of the beautiful maid who was waiting by the door. Young master. What's wrong? Anna, who had always been Luoya's personal maid and took care of his daily life, looked at the little boy hugging her leg in surprise. She didn't know how to react to this little master's kindness. Luoya, Akkad, was famous for being naughty and mischievous. Because he lost his mother when he was young and had only one parent, his father, Marquis Kadia, doted on him a lot. He couldn't bear to hit or scold him. It was as if his father had poured his love for Luoya's mother into him. Luoya, who grew up in this kind of environment, was only 9 years old, but he was already a good seedling. He restrained himself in front of his father and other nobles, but in private, he often beat and scolded the servants. Although the servants working in the Marquis mansion didn't mention it on the surface, they were very uneasy when they secretly said that this child would become their employer in the future, or even the owner of the Marquis territory. Anna herself had already begun to consider retiring before he grew up. Such a reserve-duty ruffian had a sudden change in attitude today. Was it a spur of the moment or was he plotting something? Anna maintained a smile on her face, but she was secretly vigilant. On the other side, Luoya continued to carry out his plan. It's nothing. I just read a storybook. It said that children like Luoya will be eaten by the werewolves in the Sharon forest. Luoya doesn't want to be eaten, sob, the black-haired little boy choked as he spoke. His face was wrinkled together, and tears were falling down. His little hands couldn't wipe them clean. Anna, who saw this scene, was shocked. She hurriedly knelt down to help little Luoya wipe his tears. Young master, it's okay. Those are all lies. Anna explained helplessly, thinking of the meditation incense burning in the room. That's probably caused by the curse vessel used by the master to refresh the mind. Even if it's the werewolves in the Sharon forest, they would never dare to attack the Marquis mansion. Really? Well, of course, it's true. Anna looked at the boy's big eyes and stroked his soft cheeks. Suddenly, her heart moved. She inexplicably felt that this ruffian was a little cute. Anna, I'm sorry for scolding you yesterday. Hey. Anna, who had a strange thought in her mind, received another bomb before she could calm down. The maid widened her eyes. She didn't expect the young master, who had always been arrogant, to apologize. I was wrong yesterday. I used to beat and scold you all the time. Sob, sob, I'm sorry. No, no, young master, you are still young. There are some things you don't understand. We don't blame you. Hearing the boy's self-reproach, Anna recovered and hurriedly explained, but she couldn't help but have such a thought in her mind. Could it be, the young master has grown up and wants to be a good boy? Chapter 5. Luoya recalled something. That was Elisa Ackett's fear of knives when she was young. Or it could be said that she was afraid of all sharp things that could hurt her. In his previous life, there was a saying in the Celestial Empire, once bitten, twice shy. Although this saying had a meaning, it was also a description of a disease, and that was object phobia. Object phobia refers to the abnormal, intense tension or fear of certain objects in a certain environment. Although the person knows that this psychology and behavior are unreasonable, when they encounter the corresponding situation, they repeatedly have abnormal experiences and have avoidance reactions, which are difficult to control and seriously affect their normal life. There were many people who were afraid of this psychological disease. They were afraid of snakes, mice, and insects. As for Ai Lizzie, it was similar to acrophobia. As for the reason, it could only be said that it was a pain that talented people had to endure. Luoya sighed in his heart and recalled the childhood that Ai Lizzie mentioned in the plot. All the misfortune originated from Ai Lizzie's bloodline. That's right, it was the top-notch silver bloodline that Luoya coveted so much, the son of silver. Bloodlines were not so simple in this world. They were called Shia's gift. Although bloodlines were called that, they were not dependent on blood relations. It was normal for children to be ordinary if their parents were bloodline users. On the other hand, it was also possible for a bloodline user to suddenly appear among the commoners. Of course, the prerequisite was to successfully awaken. When it came to awakening, one had to mention the number of awakenings and the level. Bloodlines were divided into 4 levels. The highest was gold and the lowest was iron. Every breakthrough would jump a level. Silver bloodlines required 2 awakenings and gold bloodlines required 3 awakenings. Every time a bloodline increased by 1 level, the number of people would decrease exponentially. A country might not have a single gold bloodline user for decades. Ai Lizzie had already broken through once. She had a bronze bloodline. However, her awakening ability was not viewed favorably by others. She had even become the target of bullying because of it. That was the rapid healing of wounds. It didn't sound like much, but most people wouldn't be able to get used to the sight of the flesh wriggling and the skin regenerating, let alone the brats who hadn't seen much of the world. This kind of uniqueness, her father not being at home all year round, and her shy and introverted personality, led to Elisa's tragic childhood. Of course, another reason was that no one thought that this girl, who seemed to have nothing except for her beauty, would have a second awakening and become a silver. Her ability would completely transform and blossom. Luoya thought of many things while the silver-haired girl on the other side of the table was trembling. The blades of the table knives reflected their shadows, and the prongs of the forks shone brightly. Little Ai Lizzie looked at them and recalled her own experience. It was at the princess's birthday banquet a year ago. Her father, who was a glutton for alcohol, got drunk. A few children from the Viscount's family, who had been bullying her, surrounded her with the young master of the Count's family. They stabbed her body with knives and forks, ignored her cries, and dragged her away by her hair. They even wanted to use a fork to stab her eyes to see if she could regenerate. Fortunately, an adult accidentally saw the group of children's atrocities and caused them to disperse. Otherwise, Ai Lizzie would have been treated like hell that night. Even so, it still became a nightmare for her. Since then, Elisa had been afraid of knives and forks. Not only was she afraid of being pointed at by a knife and fork, but she was also afraid of eating by herself. The Baron had comforted her and wanted her to overcome this psychological barrier, but it ended in failure. From then on, Ai Lizzie's utensils became spoons. This situation lasted for about a year, but no one knew that she couldn't use knives and forks until she came to Marquis Ackett's house. Today, the main dish for lunch was a fried lamb chop that required knives and forks. In the dining hall, the delicious dishes were already served. The servants were standing at the back, waiting for orders. The black-haired, golden-eyed boy picked up his utensils, and the metallic glint made A.I. Lizzie visibly tremble. A.I. Lizzie, our Ackett family's lamb chop is famous for its deliciousness. Quickly try it. Luoya looked at the silver-haired girl, who was on the verge of fear, and said these words to block her path of retreat. It wasn't some bad taste, nor was it to make her afraid. Luoya had to make A.I. Lizzie show her fear, or else Luoya wouldn't be able to help her. Today was the first time Luoya had met Eliza, and he had never heard of her before. Based on common sense, it was impossible for him to know that she didn't dare to use utensils, so he needed an opportunity to cut in. However, when A.I. Lizzie heard this sentence, she thought of many things. The silver-haired girl's body froze as she thought of a possibility. Had Luoya heard of her before? Although it was impossible to prove, it was normal for children of nobles to know each other. It wasn't impossible for them to have heard of the mysterious creature, A.I. Lizzie. If that was the case, this strange formal lunch could be explained. Moreover, Luoya's words just now actually included his family's name, which was almost a form of coercion. Whenever nobles brought up XX family, our family, and so on, it was a rather forceful way of talking. Unless they decided to become enemies, they could only agree. Refusing was a very rude behavior. Perhaps Luoya was waiting for an opportunity to bully her. The silver-haired girl lowered her head and clenched her fists in front of the dining table. She couldn't let him discover her weakness, or else, a new hell would await her. Chapter 6. Pooh. Bro, elder brother. No, nothing, ha. In front of A.I. Lizzie, who was blinking her big eyes strangely, Luoya smiled and glanced at the top of her head. Because of her age, A.I. Lizzie was half a head shorter than him. When the green plus 1000 favorability appeared, it was almost touching his face. Damn. 1000. It was actually 4 digits. At this moment, Luoya roared crazily in his heart. He couldn't wait to jump off the ground. Although it might be because of the badge of honor, the value of 1000 for feeding a meal was much better than the previous time when he pretended to cry and brush Anna. Luoya raised his golden eyes and looked at A.I. Lizzie. This time, other than being pitiful, there was also a layer of surprise. Brushing up A.I. Lizzie's favorability, not only can you avoid my death flag, you can also become rich. Come, give me another bite, ah-woo. Favorability plus 50. A.I. Lizzie, this beetroot is very delicious. Try this. Oh. Favorability plus 70. This is orange juice that Viscount Ross's manor specially gave to father. It's very delicious, try it. Gulp. So sweet. Yes. This is super delicious. Favorability plus 100. Under the stimulation of A.I. Lizzie's continuously rising value, Luoya activated his crazy pampering mode. He began to rack his brain to recall all the delicious things in the Marquis residence and ordered the servants to bring them. Bring me the chocolate that Viscount Ryan gave me on my birthday this year. Oh right, and the milk candy that father gave me. Quick. Bring them all up. The maid Anna stood behind the two, dumbfounded as she watched the usually selfish and ruthless young master take out all the good things that he had hidden. Even the rainbow crown macaron that he was usually reluctant to eat was personally fed to A.I. Lizzie. He even had an expression as if he was afraid that she would eat too little. What is going on? Could it be that young master really liked his adopted sister, A.I. Lizzie? Logically speaking, their relationship shouldn't have reached this level yet. Wait. Could it be? Anna's already big eyes widened even more. Looking at the loving young man and woman, she felt that she had discovered the truth. So that's how it is. Is that so? Indeed, Miss AI Lizzie was a beauty in the making. Anna observed the silver-haired girl who was smiling happily. Her lips curled up, and an adult smile appeared on her face. No wonder young master was so abnormal when we first met today. It turned out that he had fallen in love with little AI Lizzie at first sight. Children these days are really precocious. Anna reached out to touch her slightly hot cheeks. She was imagining something indescribable in her mind. However, she quickly sobered up and looked at the two people feeding her with a worried frown. Although the relationship between the two seemed to be very good, it was a pity that AI Lizzie was only the daughter of a baron. It was almost impossible for her to marry into a marquis family. Wait, that's not right. Anna, who originally wanted to conclude that it was a tragic love between the two, was startled. She suddenly remembered something, and that was the current state of Marquis Ackett's family. Although the Ackett family was an old noble family, they had been declining for several generations. Now, only Marquis Kadia and his only son, Luoya, were left. In this situation, it was unwise to let Luoya marry into another family. There was no other reason other than that they were afraid that the entire family would be exterminated. Luoya was the only heir of the Ackett family. When Marquis Kadia died, he would become the new marquis. If there were nobles who were eyeing the Ackett family, the simplest method would be to marry their daughter to Luoya, and then find a chance to kill him. When the time came, the Ackett family would have no children, and the inheritance would naturally fall into the hands of the marquis. This kind of vicious family extermination had appeared several times in history. Although it was condemned by the nobles, as long as there was no evidence of murder, it was completely legal. Chapter 7. As the saying goes, money should be spent where it is needed. Luoya agreed with this saying. After 2 hours of hard work, Luoya became a nouveau riche with 3,000 favorability points. He began to scan the exchange area for the second time. Luoya found that the gold exchange area could be seen as a combat enhancement area. However, the items in the favorability points exchange area were a little strange. For example, this one frowny face lady's screaming umbrella, it will scream when the rainstorm is about to hit. Price, 500 points. Are you kidding me? What's the use of this thing? It will scream when the rainstorm is about to hit. Do you think I can't see the rainstorm if you don't call me? Or should I look at it the other way around? This is a normal umbrella when there is no rainstorm. 500 points was the cheapest item that Luoya had seen so far. However, should I say that cheap items are not good? This thing is too weird. I don't know how to use it at all. Although this was an experiment to test the ability of the exchange area, Luoya didn't want to buy a piece of trash. After all, this was the favorability points exchanged with a lot of delicious food. Isn't milk candy and chocolate delicious? After scanning back and forth for a long time, Luoya finally found something that was passable. Skeleton Funeral Group, summoned by the gravedigger of the Jeshur sect. It is born from the dead and brings joy to the living. Price, 2,500 points, Although I don't understand it, it looks awesome. It seems to be a combat type. The item icon is also very domineering. It's a big skull. It seems to work. Luoya made up his mind. He ate faster and jumped off the chair. Anna, I'm going to the courtyard's practice field in the afternoon. Yes, I'll go prepare now. After the servant girl left, Luoya went to take a nap under the guidance of the others. The age of 9 was considered to be growing even in this world. Therefore, he had to ensure that he had enough sleep. After busying herself for half a day and filling her stomach, Luoya felt a little sleepy and went to sleep. At the same time, she realized that she was indeed a child. Luoya once heard a saying that humans were slaves to hormones, or that the human body determined the human mind to a certain extent. In the past, he didn't think much of it, but now he felt that it was very reasonable. For example, it was impossible for Luoya to pretend to cry in his previous life. It was already difficult for him to shed tears when he was 20 years old, but now that he was 9 years old, he could shed tears whenever he wanted. Correspondingly, when he was hugged by a beautiful big sister like Anna, Luoya didn't have any evil thoughts in his mind. After all, I lack sex hormones. After muttering to herself, Luoya finally fell asleep. She began to accumulate energy for the experiment in the afternoon. The courtyard of Akat's house was quite big. Luoya felt that he could say that. As a noble family, the front courtyard could be said to be the facade of the family, while the back courtyard was the continuation of the inner meaning. Judging whether a family was declining or not, one of the most important elements was how well they tidied up the courtyard. It wasn't scolding, it was true. In this world, the profession of a gardener was basically exclusive to the nobles. Because they almost didn't participate in labor every day, they only focused on one thing, which was to use various fancy methods to turn the front courtyard into a work of art. The extravagant nobles would even decorate their courtyard with corresponding plants during winter. Of course, although Luoya's family was wealthy, it wasn't to that extent. The head of the family, Ka Dia, as a wizard, didn't care too much about this. But even so, Luoya's family still raised 2 gardeners. And at the edge of the back courtyard, which was meticulously built by the gardeners, was the Akat family's practice field. As the name suggested, the practice field was a place for Luoya to practice spells. Most noble families didn't have such facilities, but the Akat family was rich in martial arts. Their ancestors had been experts in casting spells for many generations. During war, it was normal for them to charge and break through the enemy lines with a group of musclemen. Naturally, they had such training facilities. Chapter 8. Are you fucking kidding me? Is this really a professional team? The black-haired boy in the training ground looked at the skeletons hopping towards the wooden pile. He felt as if his worldview had been refreshed. Fuck. 2,500 points. I only bought this thing for 2,500 points. What's the use of this thing? Is it for the funeral? Luoya clutched his chest and felt the piercing pain. It was so painful that he was about to have a heart attack. But soon, he jumped up and decided to struggle a little more. Stop it. 10 minutes later. Luoya lay on the grass with a pair of dead fish eyes. He stared blankly at the blue sky and white clouds. Beside him, 6 skeletons were standing by the black coffin as if they were waiting for his funeral. After a series of investigations, Luoya fully understood that this thing could not be used in battle. Although the 6 skeletons could be summoned individually, they were agile and fast when carrying the coffin. Once they were 2 meters away from the coffin, they would become as weak as chickens. Even Luoya, who was at F level, could fight them to a draw. Luoya was only 9 years old. He was not even considered a wizard apprentice. One Luoya's combat power was about 1 goose. These 6 skeletons were Luoya x6. Although there was no such thing as a professional in this world, strength was also divided into levels. The system's level evaluation was based on the overall combat power. An ordinary adult male without any abilities would be at F level. A mutant who had received militia training would be at E level. A knight or a warrior would be at least at D level. These skeletons were F level trash 2 meters away from the coffin. Even if they were within 2 meters of the coffin, they were only F+ level. Under such circumstances, a single E-level militia would be able to wipe them out by themselves. Luoya had also checked the coffin they were carrying. It was empty, but the material of the coffin was good. Summoned creature of the gravedigger of the Jeshur sect. Born from the dead, it brings joy to the living. Looking at this introduction and recalling the funeral dance of the skeletons, Luoya smiled numbly. So, this is what it means to live towards death and bring joy to the living. Jeshur sect, I will remember you. In the future, if I see these words again, I'm a dog. After gnashing his teeth and swearing for a while, Luoya gradually calmed down. Although the shopping experience was very bad, it must be said that the exchange item was verified successfully. This was the most important point. Although 2,500 points was a pity, it was almost negligible in the eyes of the future. As long as he had the system's 2 exchange stores, he would be able to spread his wings and soar to the peak of his life sooner or later. Just thinking about it made him a little excited. After calming down, Luoya looked at the funeral procession of the skeletons more pleasing to the eye. There was another reward from this shopping experience, which was that he was able to confirm the attributes of the 2 exchange areas. No matter how domineering the name of the item in the favorability area was, or how powerful and mysterious the description was, it was definitely not for battle. So, I can only earn money honestly. But what should I do? Luoya rested his chin on his hand and looked at the skeletons beside him. Normally, after exchanging favorability points, these skeletons should be the ones earning money. But who would be able to accept the appearance of these skeletons? Skeletons were monsters, and even if they were accepted, this singing and dancing custom was completely different from the current religion of the theocracy. Were they really going to dance on the burial mound? Speaking of skeletons, what was the attitude of this world towards these undead creatures? This was not explained in detail in the game. This was the theocracy of Saint Maester, and the name didn't sound very friendly. After thinking about it for a while, the meticulous Luoya decided to expand his knowledge first. Not to mention other things, he remembered that there were a few basic spell books in his room that he was too lazy to flip through in the past. After making up his mind, Luoya began to study how to hide the coffin lid and the 6 silly skeletons from others. Once the items were exchanged by the system, there was no recall function, so he needed to find a place to put them. After a series of instructions, the 6 skeletons carried the coffin to the lounge of the practice field. Then they entered the hall one by one, barely squeezing in. Luoya looked at the situation and nodded his head. Generally speaking, he was the only one who used the practice field. This lounge was usually empty, and today it was cleaned, so he didn't have to worry about being discovered for a while. After arranging everything, Luoya finally felt relieved and left, and began his own learning journey. In this world, wizards and mages are actually not the same thing. In the study, Luoya held a thick book and flipped back and forth, feeling that his worldview had been impacted. The 9-year-old Luoya could be said to be ignorant and incompetent. His biological father was a wizard, but he didn't know anything. No wonder the invisible hand gave him the middle finger. Chapter 9. Come, Ai Lizzie, try this smoked sausage. In the restaurant at night, a silver-haired girl opened her cherry lips shyly to Luoya. Her pearly white teeth were clearly contrasted by her red lips, and her pink tongue was slightly raised, waiting to taste the delicious food in her mouth. Ah! After biting down hard, Ai Lizzie's small face was propped up by a large mouthful of sausage. As she chewed, a large amount of meat juice exploded in her mouth, flowing along the edge of her lips to her chin. Even though the girl tried her best to swallow, a lot of it still spilled out. Ai Lizzie's small face was red from this indecent posture. Luoya smiled, picked up a napkin, and carefully wiped her face. Lord Big Brother, there's too much juice, let me do it myself. It's fine. Luoya smiled and sped up his movements, while Ai Lizzie lowered her eyes and blushed. Favorability plus 200. Ai Lizzie, I love you. Mr. Luoya's eyes widened when he saw the favorability. In just a day, his attitude towards Ai Lizzie changed from fear to fanaticism, almost like a fangirl chasing after a celebrity. However, what he didn't know was that Ai Lizzie, who didn't show it on the surface, was also developing into a fangirl under his meticulous care. Lord Big Brother is so gentle, he cares for me even more than Lord Father. My chest is so hot, I don't want to separate, but now I'm suddenly acting so clingy, isn't it a bit disgusting? Ai Lizzie clenched her small fists, thinking of the insults from the children who bullied her in the past. In fact, there were people who curiously tried to get close to her, but Luoya was completely different. Ai Lizzie's experience since young made her very sensitive to other people's feelings, and she could feel Luoya's kindness from the bottom of his heart. AI Lizzie wanted to open her heart. She had been lonely and miserable for too long. She was like a person who was about to drown in evil, desperately yearning for sunshine and love. But now, there was a problem, and that was that there was not enough time. What if it was only because of the novelty of having an adopted sister? Just like a newly bought toy, sooner or later one would get tired of it. When he felt bored, would he abandon her? As a child who had experienced too much at a young age, she still chose to remain vigilant. She believed what her late father had said. Love needed time to prove everything. The silver-haired girl restrained herself, but Luoya was unscrupulous. If they had known each other for a short time, he would have hugged AI Lizzie and rubbed his face. Too fast, it was really too fast. The AI Lizzie's favorability refresh rate was really like a rocket. It was like smoke coming out of its butt and going straight to the blue sky. And she was so cute. Because of her fair skin, it was especially obvious when she blushed. She was very polite at such a young age. She was simply an angel. Don't talk about giving her away. If anyone dares to snatch her away, I will chop off their dog head. In the worst-case scenario, he could lose his home, but he must have AI Lizzie. Luoya firmly believed in the principle of AI Lizzie as the center. His hands did not stop feeding her. Now that she had a bronze bloodline, AI Lizzie did not have to worry about her body shape. Her bloodline determined that she would always maintain a perfect posture. Without this worry, Luoya could be said to be as ruthless as he wanted. It was only when AI Lizzie shook her small hands to indicate that she really could not eat anymore that Luoya stopped. But even after dinner, the young boy and girl were still somewhat reluctant to part. They chatted for a while until AI Lizzie was so sleepy that she rubbed her eyes. Only then did Luoya take the initiative to return to his room to rest. Marquis Ka Dia did not return tonight. This situation had been a normal occurrence since last year in Luoya's memory, so neither he nor the servants were surprised. After dinner, he read for 2 hours. Luoya's child body finally began to feel drowsy. With the help of Anna, he climbed onto the big feather bed and buried his body deep in the bed. Too many things had happened today. Recovering his memory, meeting with AI Lizzie, the application of the system, and the future crisis and planning. So many things, even an adult would be exhausted, let alone with his current body. Luoya, whose brain and body were both exhausted, quickly fell asleep. Anna, who was on standby at the side, was about to leave when she inexplicably remembered what happened during the day. She carefully observed the young boy's cute sleeping face and recalled his changes today. Affection plus 50-inch just a little, stay a little longer. She muttered to herself and quietly left the room. A month later, in the farm area outside Akot City, in front of the Lord's mill. Under the bright sun, old Kent, who was working, saw people gathering in front of the mill. He immediately threw down his sickle and pulled up his pants. Like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey, he picked up a large bundle of magic wheat and sprinted forward at a speed of 100 meters. As he ran, he called out to his son who was also working. "Bill, stop messing with your donkey, quick. Call your mother to help me transport the grain, the mill is open." Chapter 10. What kind of person was young Master Luoya Akot? If this question was asked to the farmers of Akot a month ago, he would have been laughed at for being stupid. After all, a noble like young Master Luoya lived in a mansion in the city. Not to mention the people in the city, how could the farmers outside the city see him? But since a month ago, a miracle had happened. The young master of the Marquis mansion actually lowered himself to see the old farmers outside the city. Old Kent and the others were lucky enough to see the young master's face. Everyone's first reaction when they saw Luoya was basically the same. That was to take a second look at him because he was good-looking. Luoya's face was very powerful when it came to gaining favorability. Some said it was cute, some said it was handsome, but in short, it was a good face that met the standards of the public. The young master of the Marquis family was even more beautiful than the elves in the stories. This boast had spread out and he had become the dream lover of many young girls. After his appearance, people's impression of him was his attitude. In Old Kent's view, young Master Luoya was a person who treated his servants kindly. It was now autumn, and although the weather had cooled considerably, the sun was still shining brightly at noon. Add to that the throng of people in front of the mill, and even Old Kent himself felt annoyed and stuffy. However, the young Marquis had never lost his composure. He had neither scolded nor lost his temper, and his attitude was even better than the tax collector's. Of course, as a noble, Luoya naturally wouldn't be like him. There were servants who held umbrellas for Luoya, but that wasn't much better. Moreover, the young master had to use spells to operate the mill. Wouldn't that be more tiring than them? Thinking of this, the old farmer couldn't help but sigh. Young Master Luoya was really a good person. Old Kent was moved by himself, but he didn't know that the person he admired was also looking at the villagers who were glowing with green light. What a good batch of leeks! Luoya Akat's face revealed a smile, his eyes full of joy. It had been a month since she reincarnated into this world. Luoya had basically adapted to her identity and life. She had formulated a lot of plans to save herself and started to implement them step by step. As a smart person, Luoya naturally knew that he wasn't out of danger yet. As the big boss of the game, Luoya had many conflicts with the main characters. Even though the tragedy of Ai Lizzie seemed to have been stopped, he was still in danger. Therefore, even though she was only 9 years old, Luoya clenched her teeth and forced herself to do it. No matter what, she didn't want to wait for death. And the first step was to use the system's items flexibly. Half a month ago, Luoya found Marquis Kadia and had a serious talk. In general, he said that he was too naughty and mischievous in the past. After having Ai Lizzie as a sister, he felt the responsibility of a big brother and decided to turn over a new leaf. He asked Kadia what he should do. Who would have thought that Kadia would cry and sigh to the heavens? As a marquis, Kadia was one of the few great nobles in the entire theocracy. However, this powerful man always had two painful spots in his heart. One was the early death of his beloved wife, and the other was the failure of his son. Single-parent families often have difficulties, and that is the lack of parental care for the child, and the lack of education may lead to all kinds of problems, and the Akate family's situation was more serious. Kadia was busy as a marquis, and usually had little time to accompany the child, and because of his wife's death, he spoiled Roja, and in the long run, Roja completely turned into a bear. Selfish, strict, and overbearing. From the way he beat and scolded his servants, one could vaguely see that he was likely to be a cruel lord in the future. For such a Roja, Kadia was anxious in his heart, but he couldn't bear to be cruel to his wife's son, so he could only adopt the daughter of one of his subordinates, hoping to get along with someone of the same age to eliminate his son's loneliness and develop in a good direction. Although that was what he thought, he did not expect it to be so effective. It was almost immediate. Kadia was very excited, but he did not forget to point out a direction for Luoya. After some hesitation, he first told Luoya one thing, and that was: Luoya did not have the talent to become a wizard. Kadia was also quite helpless about this. Luoya was already 9 years old this year, but he was completely incompetent in the study of spells. Back then, he was not only an apprentice, but also an extraordinary at this age. Compared to him, Luoya was not even a weak egg, let alone a weak chicken. However, although he could not become an extraordinary with supernatural powers, and could not become an influential figure in the theocracy like Kadia, as a noble, he did not need these. It would be difficult to take over from Kadia and achieve glory, but it was more than enough to protect the family business and become a powerful noble with the Akate family's wealth. Kadia did not want his child to have any great achievements. Being able to live a peaceful and happy life was more important than anything else. This was probably the true wish of this simple old man, Kadia, and it was similar to most parents in the world. Of course, at this time, Kadia did not know what kind of person his son was. His future was destined to not be peaceful as he had many invisible entanglements with many women. "Father, you mean that instead of learning spells, I should learn how to manage a territory and become a good lord? Yes, in your generation, the Akkad family may be at a low point, but as long as you persevere, there will definitely be a turn for the better. The Akkad family was a wizard family. Almost every 1 or 2 generations, there would be a talented representative. Dia only had one son, Luoya, so Luoya's generation was completely useless. His son's generation was not good enough, but what about his grandson? Find a few more wives, have a few more children, and the chances will be higher. At least in your next generation, there will be at least one person who can carry the banner of our wizard family. Dia earnestly gave Luoya the highest instructions. The youth's face was tangled and he was speechless for a while. He could only sigh and sigh, as expected of his biological father. What he said was true. However, although it sounded ridiculous, Luoya knew that this was related to the inheritance of the nobility and was not joking. He could only silently nod his head, as if Beidasheng was entrusting his grandson to him. After accompanying his old man in a big circle, Luoya finally prepared enough foundation and began to reveal his true purpose. Father, I am interested in agriculture and taxation. Can you let me be a temporary tax officer and see how my uncles collect taxes? Good, look. Look as you wish. As long as you want to learn, I will support you unconditionally. Marquis Dia, who finally saw hope, waved his hand. He was afraid that Luoya would change his mind after 3 minutes of enthusiasm, so he approved the document on the spot and passed it to him. The efficiency was beyond imagination. Luoya, who had achieved his goal, walked out of the study after expressing his gratitude. Looking at the document in his hand, his eyes were filled with tears. This lord's skeleton laborers can finally take up their duties. Chapter 11. Thank you for your benevolence, my lord. May she bless you. Outside the lord's mill, Old Kent hitched up the donkey cart and bowed gratefully to Luoya. Behind him, a group of people looked at him with envy and jealousy. Old Kent was lucky today. When he arrived, it was already time for the tax collector to get off work. However, the generous and kind young Master Marquis saw him pulling a large cart of grain and waiting under the hot sun for so long, so he extended the time and worked for another half an hour. As a result, Old Kent got on the last bus. One must know that Luoya was a traveling tax collector. He might be here today, but he might not be the next. Old Kent was naturally happy that he got on the last bus, and the others were jealous. It's nothing. I just got off work a little later. This year's harvest is bountiful. Go back and prepare for winter. The noble youth looked at Old Kent's glowing green head and smiled. After saying a few words of concern, the old farmer, who was already grateful to Luoya, was greatly moved. The green on his head deepened. Seeing this, the generous and kind, young Master Luoya's smile deepened. He couldn't help but applaud his wise decision. When Luoya chose to work overtime to take on Old Kent's order, it was naturally because he was kind and soft-hearted. However, it was also because Old Kent had given him the most favorability points during the 100m marathon in the fields. He had given him 150 favorability points. Luoya was a little surprised at that time. What a good leek. He was so green and crisp. He would feel embarrassed if he didn't cut him. Young master, it's about time. The beautiful maid's soft voice entered Luoya's ears. The slight warmth made him feel a little itchy. The young man turned his head and saw the soft lump of the maid's breast that had become bigger due to the pressure. Young master. Cough, cough. It's nothing. Although Luoya didn't feel anything due to her young age, she still felt a little shy. She adjusted her state of mind and nodded to the defenseless Anna before standing up and walking towards the mill. The servants behind him began to tidy up the tables, chairs, and tea sets. The villagers who didn't get to line up in the distance sighed in disappointment. Luoya listened to them, but he didn't stop. Although he also wanted to harvest those leeks that he didn't have time to deal with, as the saying goes, going too far is as bad as falling short. If he blindly bestowed favors for a long time, it would be taken for granted. When the time came, although he would harvest more leeks, the number of favorability points would not increase. Instead, it might decrease. After a month of exploration, Luoya discovered that the favorability system was very complicated. Take Old Kent for example. His high favorability score was naturally due to his gratitude to Luoya, but it was also due to the joy of the limited-time discount, the sense of superiority he felt when Luoya made an exception and the satisfaction he felt from the envious gazes of the villagers. All these feelings added up to the 300-plus favorability points that floated above his head. But if Luoya changed from flowing to fixed, then although Old Kent would still be grateful, he wouldn't be so happy. To put it bluntly, the favorability system was also a hunger marketing game. Moreover, human nature was complicated. The best way to describe it was to repay kindness with kindness. Thinking of this, Luoya walked into the mill and saw the skeleton pallbearers standing behind the stone mill in a daze. The coffin at the side was also covered in flour. Yes, this was the method that Luoya came up with after spending 2,500 injustice points. Skeleton pallbearers were a service that no one in Akot Hill could enjoy, so it was impossible to earn gold coins. But even if he couldn't earn gold coins, he could still earn back the favorability points. Therefore, after thinking about it, Luoya found a job for these 6 skeletons who didn't know anything other than stable strength. They worked like cows and horses. The combined strength of 6 F+ rank skeletons was more than enough to be compared to a donkey. Pushing the mill wasn't a difficult task, and the coffin was just right for transporting flour. They could lift anything, but they didn't have to lift people. When the flour was full, they just had to carry it to the window and pour it out. Luoya nodded to the 6 skeletons. They were much more pleasing to the eye compared to a few days ago. He then snapped his fingers, and the 6 skeletons folded on the spot again and shrank back into the coffin. The Saint Maester theocracy had a negative attitude towards the undead, but for the wizards who controlled them, as long as they didn't break the law, there was no special punishment. It was said that the undead had existed since the first era of Shia. However, it was written in the canon that if a few skeletons suddenly popped out of a grave, it would cause panic among the villagers. Therefore, Luoya naturally couldn't let the skeletons follow him around. This skeleton pallbearers had now been whitewashed by Luoya into a useless collection of the family. Anyway, the things in the warehouse of the Marquis mansion were passed down by several generations, and Kadia couldn't tell what was inside. Wizard families were really good. Luoya sighed and turned around to walk out of the mill. The guards immediately separated and covered the coffin with a cloth and carried it to the second carriage. As for the first carriage, it was naturally the carriage prepared by the Marquis mansion for the young master. Under the cheerful farewell of the villagers, Luoya boarded the luxurious carriage, and his small body sank into the soft sofa. Anna also boarded the carriage and sat on the small chair opposite to watch over him. The carriage door closed, and the coachman's shout sounded. Working in front of the Lord's mill seemed easy, but in fact, it wasn't easy. Not to mention the hot weather between summer and autumn, just maintaining a sitting posture in order to maintain the image of a noble was enough to make the young Luoya suffer. Luoya's stiff body slowly relaxed. The busy day was over, and the tired Luoya could finally rest for a while. Chapter 12. What was the happiest moment of Luoya's day? Needless to say, it was now. At the entrance of the residence, a silver-haired fairy-like young girl lowered her eyes and opened her arms. Her face was red as she gently hugged Luoya, who had just returned from his internship. Her shy and adorable appearance, paired with her exquisite face, was like a fragrant Rosso wine paired with the sweet but not greasy honey of the honey-whispering forest. It was like a chemical reaction that burst forth with a seductive charm. "I'm back, AI Lizzie." Faced with AI Lizzie's reserved and somewhat bashful hug, Luoya didn't hold back in the slightest. He directly hugged this seductive and adorable creature in his arms, his heart filled with pride. AI Lizzie's current actions weren't spontaneous. Strictly speaking, they were taught by Luoya. The young girl's personality was naturally more reserved and calm. She had received a good upbringing since young, so her actions were filled with the aura of nobility. Therefore, she had never hugged anyone other than her father. Unfortunately, her body temperature was low, while Luoya's body temperature was high. Every time Luoya returned home from work, he would hug the young girl who came to greet him. At first, Ai Lizi's body was very stiff, but she gradually got used to it. In the past 2 days, Luoya didn't even need to move to hug her. Under Luoya's guidance, Ai Lizi had obtained her own initiative. This was without a doubt an important sign that she had accepted Luoya. Another important sign was the way she addressed him. Luoya, Gij, don't rub, it's itchy, ha. In front of the entrance, the young boy who was hugging the silver fairy was using all his strength to rub against the young girl's delicate cheeks and snow-white neck. He greedily breathed in like a severely addicted patient. Under his attack, the young girl with the temperament of a mature lady finally couldn't help but giggle. Ai Lizi changed the way she addressed Luoya after a week of interaction. The young girl who was rapidly getting closer to Luoya was finally willing to call him by his name. Of course, in front of outsiders or when Luoya wasn't around, Ai Lizi would still respectfully address him as her brother. The change in the way she addressed him meant that Luoya's imperceptible influence on the young girl had blossomed. As of now, it was almost the result. I'm sorry, do you hate me? No, you don't. Hearing Luoya's concerned question, Ai Lizi shook her small head. Her silver hair that seemed to glow under the light also swayed along with it. The dual warmth of both her heart and body made her yearn for Luoya's closeness. After a slight hesitation, Ai Lizi carefully buried her face into the young boy's shoulder. The two children's affectionate relationship continued like this, causing the surrounding maid's lips to curl up uncontrollably. Then, one by one, their heads emitted green light as they began to provide favorability points. Young Master and young Mrs. relationship today was also very good. As the head of the Marquis Mansion's joyous party, Anna had practically witnessed the chemical change between the two after they met. As a witness, she was naturally the one who supported this pair the most. To put it more bluntly, she was the type who liked this couple the most, the type who liked it immensely. Luoya watched as green light surged around him for a while before he reluctantly let go of the petite Ai Lizi. Although he didn't know the reason, Luoya recently discovered that as long as he pampered Ai Lizi, the nearby servants would automatically provide him with favorability points. Moreover, these people were constantly increasing, and the amount of favorability points provided was also increasing little by little. This discovery was simply shocking to Luoya. Although the principle was still unclear, Ai Lizi had suddenly changed from a high-income single-target monster to a boss monster that could summon mobs in an area. Every time she was killed, her income would increase even more. Of course, Luoya didn't get close to Ai Lizi just for points, but also to protect her. From the information in the game, it was known that Ai Lizi's fate was actually tied together with the Akot family and Luoya. Only with enough favorability points could Luoya revitalize the family, and only by avoiding the decline of the family could he ensure that Ai Lizi wouldn't leave for various reasons. In this way, not only would Ai Lizi not suffer a tragedy, but even Luoya could successfully avoid his death flag. Was there anything more justifiable in the world to get close to a girl than this? Okay, it's already very late, let's go eat. Okay, big brother Luoya. What did you do today? In the morning, I had teacher Adele's etiquette class. In the afternoon, I had general history of literature and mathematics. After that, I went to the study to read until the evening. So hardworking. Hearing Ai Lizi's words, a certain young master who used to be ignorant and incompetent stopped in his tracks, suddenly feeling a little ashamed. Although the lives of nobles were good, they weren't nouveau riches who only knew how to enjoy life. All nobles thought of one thing the moment they became nobles, and that was how to pass down their glory. This was the same in every world. After a long period of exploration, they found the same method, and that was education. Sufficient education was fertile ground for the birth of elites, and the solidification of social class also came from the solidification of education. As an old noble family, the Akkad family was naturally willing to invest a lot in education. The teachers they hired were all famous people in the holy capital, and the homework they gave was also quite heavy. Of course, Luoya wouldn't do it, but Ai Lizzie wouldn't. With so much homework every day, she still insisted on reading by herself. Wasn't this too much of a burden for a child who wasn't even 8 years old yet? Ai Lizzie, learning is good, but you have to be careful not to overwork yourself. You can take it slow. If that's the case, no. Why? Chapter 13. Dia is coming home tomorrow. So soon. Luoya was a little surprised when he heard the news. He didn't understand why Marquis Dia was suddenly on vacation. The young man stroked his chin and frowned. He looked like an old scholar from Bologna, the country of scholars. The servants who saw him couldn't help but smile. As the Marquis of Saint Maester, Dia didn't have to work days. However, as the chief wizard of the paladins, Dia was a member of the military. Naturally, he had to study spells and cooperate with his teammates in training. Actually, this was his main job. As an ancient family, the reason why the Akkad family was able to prosper was because they had produced many wizards. They belonged to the family of the big shots in the military, and there were even military leaders in the past few generations. That was why Dia spent most of his time in the paladins. He entrusted the management of the territory to many officials. Usually, he would only come back 3 to 5 days a month to check the data and have a meeting. This was also the reason why Luoya lacked companionship when he was young, and Dia felt guilty about it. Luoya counted with his fingers. It had only been half a month since his father came back. Why did he suddenly come back? And there was a guest of the Akkad family was no small character. At the very least, it had to be a noble with a noble rank or above. The message sent back in advance was basically to tell Luoya to prepare well. It was an important guest. Who exactly was this person who had come to greet them with such enthusiasm? Luoya thought about it carefully and decided to eat. He didn't have a choice. It wasn't that he gave up on thinking. It was just that he didn't know enough people, and there was no point in thinking blindly. He might as well fill his stomach and get the favorability points. Come, Ai Lizzie, whoa. Good girl. How does it taste? I told the chef to add more sugar. It shouldn't be so sour. It tastes better than last time. Thank you, big brother Luoya. Ai Lizzie straightened her snow-white neck and lifted her face. Her cherry lips curled into a sweet smile. Her ruby-like eyes looked up at Luoya. Her eyes seemed to contain the light of early spring, and there was a faint sense of mystery and charm. Ah! So cute. I'm going to die. Luoya desperately resisted the urge to hug Ai Lizzie. She picked up a napkin and gently wiped the sauce from the corner of her mouth. The girl squinted her eyes and endured it, like a kitten being caressed by its owner. Normally, this job was done by the servants after the meal, but because the servants behind Luoya were very good at reading the atmosphere, they didn't have any intention to help at all, especially Anna, who was looking at the boy and girl with shining eyes. There's food again. Ah, I'm full. I'm so full. Anna was happily chatting with the couple, and the other servants also had smiles on their faces. In the past month, Ai Lizzie's status had rapidly risen. She was now seen as the future mistress of the Marquis residence by the servants. Of course, the reason was Luoya, but it wasn't entirely because of Luoya. To be precise, it wasn't because he doted on the silver-haired girl every day, but because of an unintentional matter. That was the conversation between Luoya and Marquis Dia. That parent-child talk didn't only allow Luoya to achieve his goal. It actually had other effects in places he didn't know, such as Marquis Dia's attitude towards Ai Lizzie. After the plan to change his naughty son succeeded, Kadia could be said to be very grateful to AI Lizzie, and his attitude towards her was even more cordial. But in the eyes of others, this was interpreted differently. As expected, Lord Marquis liked AI Lizzie, and wanted her to marry young Master to secure the family business. This rumor had already spread throughout the Marquis residence, and was strongly supported by Luoya's actions every day. This was also the reason why the young Master and Miss X True Love support group in the residence was constantly expanding, and why it continued to provide favorability. The love of the two young men and young women with the highest appearance every day was the favorite of the motherly fans. And from another point of view, the mistress who had known each other since childhood was naturally more welcomed by the servants of the residence than an outsider who had married in with her own group of servants. Good. Young Master, you've done well. You've captured Miss AI Lizzie's heart, and our Marquis residence will be safe. Anna stood behind Luoya with her hands clenched in front of her chest, cheering him on. But what she didn't know was that the youth in front of her had no such thoughts. 9 years old was still too early. Even if Luoya was very clear about the matters between men and women, he didn't feel anything because his body hadn't developed yet. Right now, he only felt that AI Lizzie was very cute, and was the best way to cure his tired soul. After the usual feeding, Luoya finished his food quickly. Recently, he hadn't been able to spend time with AI Lizzie during the day, so the two decided to make up for it after dinner. As their elder, Kadia wasn't home, so they could stay up late as they wished. Of course, although this was said, a child's body actually became tired very early. Luoya and AI Lizzie basically returned to their rooms around 8 o'clock. As for what to do during the time between dinner and bed, different people had different answers. For the majority of the non-aristocrats in this world who had to do manual labor, this period of time was basically the process of preparing to sleep. Because of the high cost of lighting, ordinary people basically drank tea and chatted before going to sleep. Of course, it was also possible to sleep in another place. But for the aristocrats, the activities at night weren't limited to making babies. In fact, there were quite a few choices. For example, playing chess was a relatively good form of entertainment. Apart from that, they could also read books. Those who were more artistic could dance or play musical instruments. If there were more people, they could even hold a lively moon appreciation party. Chapter 14. How can one capture a girl's heart? This question was a perennial question that lingered in the long journey of pursuing the opposite sex. There were many different answers, and it could be said that it differed from person to person. Some girls liked beauty, and they were often attracted by looks. Some girls liked literature, and their requirements for their partners were romantic and talented. However, in the eyes of students during their study period, good grades were often the biggest filter, and intelligence could become their biggest competitiveness. AI Lizzie was a precocious girl. Her experience of being independent since young made her see the world through her own eyes. Even now, because Luoya had pried open her heart, it still couldn't change her independent and intellectual nature. Because of this, she was different from the rest, and was seen as an anomaly by the children. Therefore, she had an abnormal thirst for knowledge, and wanted to use her excellent knowledge to prove herself. Therefore, it was easier for her to be attracted by intelligent protectors. That naturally referred to Luoya. Beside the desk, AI Lizzie looked at the young man who had solved a large piece of paper in a short period of time, and her eyes were practically sparkling. Luoya had already solved the problem that stumped her. This was actually nothing, after all. In AI Lizzie's opinion, Luoya had learned more than her, so it was normal for him to be able to solve the problem. But afterwards, Luoya's operation made her realize the difference between the two of them. Luoya not only explained the problem to her, but also helped AI Lizzie check her homework. Of course, it was done on the spot. Brother Luoya, how did you calculate so quickly? This 9 by 9 multiplication table, you can memorize it quickly too. Luoya thanked the ancestors in his previous life for their summary in his heart. He smiled and said, there are some small tricks, I'll write one for you. Okay. Looking at AI Lizzie's sweet smile and the large amount of affection points above her head, Luoya couldn't help but laugh. He turned his head back and looked at the surprised Anna, and the corner of his mouth curved into a smile. My face is saved. The next morning, Luoya woke up early and had breakfast with AI Lizzie. The two of them didn't stick together as usual. Instead, they made a quick decision and went back to their respective rooms to tidy themselves up and try on their clothes. That's right, it was all because an important guest was coming today. Yesterday evening, the news from Marquis Dia was not something that he had only heard once. In fact, many of the servants in the Marquis mansion did not sleep last night as they cleaned the place overnight. As a result, when Luoya went out today, he thought that the Marquis mansion had been renovated. The cleaning this time wasn't just about keeping the house clean. Many carpets were changed, and paintings were hung on the walls. Many precious collections that had never been seen before were moved out of the storage room and placed in the study room, corridor, and other places. To sum it up, it was as if it was the new year. Luoya and AI Lizzie, who were the main characters, naturally couldn't act as usual. Especially Luoya, as the only son of the Marquis, he had to show his elegance. Young master, please don't move. Inside the room, Anna was kneeling in front of Luoya, helping him arrange his eyebrows. As the main character, Luoya had to put on makeup today. Of course, it wasn't some big white-faced blushing monkey but makeup. Instead, it was a rather magical makeup technique. Alright, then young master, please close your eyes. After shaving Luoya's eyebrows, Anna dipped a brush into the liquid on the jade bottle on the table and then carefully smeared it on Luoya's face. The youth only felt a burst of ice cold. When he opened his eyes again, he found that his face in the mirror was like a beauty filter. Damn, I'm so handsome. Luoya stroked his chin and looked at the handsome guy in the mirror. Then he lowered his head and looked at the transparent liquid in the bottle. Fairies do. It was said that it was made from the resin of the tree demons that charmed travelers in the Lost Forest. It was a patented product of the Sorofia Chamber of Commerce. Since the day it was born, it was a super luxury that made countless noble women go crazy for. 1 drop would make you look 3 times whiter, 5 drops would make you look new. Using money to buy a face was just this. Of course, although it was very powerful, this effect was only temporary. It didn't have any effect on wizards with high magic power. If they wanted, their eyes could directly see through this layer of charm. Moreover, this thing wasn't only good. In this world, almost all products that contained magic had side effects. For example, fairies do. If it was used for a long time, the user's face would have a charm effect. In the past, there were noble ladies who were attacked because they used it excessively. Chapter 15. Outside the door came the sound of the carriage wheels rolling. Roja and Elisa, who were originally blushing because of each other, focused their attention. Anna, who was excited, also suppressed her expression for a moment. The pink wedding atmosphere disappeared and the solemn feeling returned. Luoya squinted his eyes and looked outside. At this time, an exquisite noble carriage slowly drove into the courtyard. The sound of hooves was crisp and pleasant. The snow-white horse made the boy's pupils shrink. The frost-winged horse, the legendary hybrid of a Pegasus and a unicorn. It was born noble and rare. Generally speaking, it could not be seen outside of the holy capital, and most people would not want to own it. Although this type of horse was very strong in all aspects, it had a bad temper, mainly due to its bloodline. The Pegasus was a mythical creature. It was said that it was the mount of the angels. The unicorn was the most lecherous of horses, and only pure virgins were allowed to ride it. It was said that it had followed the high elves in the Second Age. As a hybrid horse with both bloodlines, the frost-winged horse's request was simple and direct. Yes, it wanted all of them. She had to have the blood of an angel and be a pure virgin. There were many requirements, but she was neither as good as a Pegasus nor a unicorn. Although in theory, she could double atavism to become a Pegasus, that was just a theory. She had never seen a Pegasus that was so powerful. But that being said, there were not many families who dared to use it to pull carriages. Or rather, there was only one family who dared to use it. When Luoya realized this, his body stiffened. He raised his eyes and looked carefully. Sure enough, he saw a conspicuous family emblem on the carriage. It was a symbol of two wings overlapping in front of a steel shield. Its name was the Shield of Glorious Wings. And of course, this family emblem was only owned by one family in the theocracy of Saint Maester, and that was the royal family, Heathcliff. The theocracy of Saint Maester was a country where religion and politics were integrated. The head of the country was not only the king, but also the head of the largest religion in the world, the primordial goddess sect. The primordial goddess sect worshipped the goddess of creation, Shia. The sect of the primordial goddess was the largest religion in this world, covering almost the entire human territory. In terms of authority, it was similar to the Celestial Empire in his previous life. Regardless of whether it was true or false, basically everyone would mutter a few words when they sighed. There was only one family that controlled such a large scale and countless believers, and that was Heathcliff. Logically speaking, it was impossible for a single family to eat such a huge cake. At the very least, they should take turns to eat it, right? Wouldn't the other aristocrats and interest groups be starved to death? However, in Shia, the Heathcote family did eat it for 1,000 years. There was only one reason. That was because their family had the angel bloodline. Angels, the envoys who assisted Shia in the First Era, could be said to be on the side of God, the closest race to God. Was there anyone more suitable than them to serve Shia? Of course, the title was just a decoration. It couldn't protect anything. The only secret to the Heathcliff family's longevity was strength. In this world, the angel bloodline was not only used for bragging, but also a symbol of strength. In theory, there were many branches of the angel bloodline, but one thing was certain, and that was, once awakened, it would definitely be the golden bloodline. This could basically be considered as a guarantee for future generations. Whoever reincarnated into his family would really be the Emperor of Europe. Even the main character of Long Outyen was nothing more than this. Sigh, how amazing. Luoya sighed, then quickly took off the badge of honor pinned on his chest. Brother? Ai Lizzie blinked when she saw Luoya's strange behavior. The carriage outside the gate stopped at this time. The servant stepped forward to open the gold-carved door, and the three people in the carriage alighted one by one. The first person was Luoya's father, Marquis Kadia. The second person was a blonde, tall man with a serious face. The third person was a young girl. Welcome, Your Highness Kayin. My name is Luoya Akat. I've often heard my father Kadia Akat talk about your brave deeds. It's an honor to meet you today. In the entrance hall, Luoya greeted the tall blonde man with a kind smile. Her pair of big eyes shone with admiration and longing. It could be said that her acting was quite good. Seeing Luoya like this, Kadia was obviously surprised, but the blonde man laughed. Ha, Kadia, I didn't expect you to say good things about me. The commander of the paladins, Kayin Heathcliff, was very happy. He didn't expect that the wizard Kadia, who had different political views with him, would praise him behind his back, and in front of a child. Sigh, too arrogant. Chapter 16. Nu'a Ir Heathcrete. This was a name that Luoya didn't want to recall, but it was in the memories of his previous life. The great saint of Saint Mestre, the matriarch of the Heathcrete family. She was beautiful enough to cause the downfall of a city. Wherever she went, she would be surrounded by stars. Together with Ai Lizzie, they were known as the Golden Sun and Silver Moon of Saint Mestre. In the original game, she was respected and revered by the students. Of course, she was also one of the 4 characters that could be captured. However, this seemingly perfect young miss was actually not what she looked like on the outside. Her inner self was simply indescribable. To put it simply, Noa Iyer Heathcrete was a super sadist. In front of outsiders, she was well-educated and dignified like a god, but in fact, she was a sadist in her heart. She even had the nickname of the bloodthirsty angel. Once she fought, the scene was simply unbearable to watch. Noa Iyer was really a very complicated person. You could say that she was evil, but she was very good to the people around her and showed no mercy to the dark forces. But you could say that she was righteous, hee. Just look at the mountain of corpses and the sea of blood, and the way the girl indulged in killing with her hands stained with blood. One of Luoya's deepest impressions in the game was the scene where the supposedly holy Noa Iyer spread her wings and held her blood-stained cheeks with an intoxicated expression. The fusion of good and evil could be called art. But unfortunately, it was limited to art. In reality, Luoya didn't want to have anything to do with this kind of person. It was better to stay as far away from her as possible. Back then, the protagonist almost lost his life trying to capture her. He risked his life to lick her for 3 semesters before he succeeded. That was really shameless. And what the protagonist could do, how could others do it? If the protagonist licked her shoes, he would live. If a passerby licked her shoes, they would die. What's more, Luoya was a villain. That was a death that couldn't be any more dead. Damn, now that he thought about it, he already had a professional team. Thinking about the coffin board that he exchanged his favorability points for, Luoya's heart trembled. As the boss of the main storyline stage, Noa Iyer contributed a lot when Luoya was killed. This made the youth once again firm his belief. I must not have anything to do with her. Your Highness Noa Iyer, do you like the black tea? Yes, very good. Thank you, Miss A.I. Lizzie. In the small living room, Noa Iyer, A.I. Lizzie, and Luoya were drinking tea and chatting. An hour had passed since they got to know each other at the entrance, and their parents were having a private conversation in the large reception room. It was obvious that Ka Dia and Prince Kai-een had something important to discuss. Luoya, who didn't have any information, couldn't guess what was going on. However, from the fact that Noa Iyer was also here, Luoya knew at least one thing. That was, the Heathcliff family wanted to be on good terms with the Akot family, and to do so, the shortcut was to start from the beginning. The Akot family was a marquis, one of the 5 oldest aristocratic families in the theocracy. Even in the holy capital, it was widely known that they were a great aristocratic family. Roping in such a family was naturally a good thing for the Heathcliff family, and the easiest and most worthy member of the Akot family was Luoya. The descendants represented the future, and having a good relationship with the heirs was equivalent to having a good relationship with the family in the future. This was also the reason why aristocratic children matured early and were bound to attend various banquets. Forming cliques had already begun, and those who understood it late would be at a disadvantage. On the stage, the 3 contestants obviously understood this. As a noble among nobles, Noa Iyer didn't act arrogantly at all. She elegantly and generously tried to get closer to the 2 contestants. A.I. Lizzie obviously saw through Miss Angel's intentions, but her long experience made her very wary of her peers except for Luoya. As for Luoya, the boy was wearing a smiling mask, trying his best to pretend to be dead, using his actions to express one thing: don't touch me. Noa Iyer might be a big tree, and the alliance between the Akot family and the Heathcliff family was indeed attractive, but those were all from the perspective of the family, and Luoya was now thinking about himself. As a main storyline boss, a villain who was hated to the core by many female protagonists and destined to be trampled on by the main protagonist, Luoya adhered to a principle in order to survive, and that was to pull out the flags. Pulling out all the flags meant that, theoretically, he could survive. No matter how you looked at it, there was nothing wrong with this idea, but in reality, there was a problem, and that was, how to pull out the flags. For this problem, Luoya's solution was to do something that Luoya would never do. The original Luoya abused A.I. Lizzie, so the current Luoya would spoil her to the heavens, and so on. If it was the original Luoya, Noa Iyer would have immediately started licking her, but the current Luoya had to cut ties with her. Show goodwill. I'm blind, praise. I'm deaf. Anyway, I can't see or hear. No matter what you say, I'll just smile innocently. It doesn't matter if Noah Iyer hates me, if she hates me to the point that I won't even look at him in the future, that would be great. Luoya, can I call you that? Chapter 17. Noah Iyer Heathcliff was a person who was born with a golden spoon in her mouth. Born in the royal family of Heathcliff, Noah Iyer had been the pride of the world since she was a child. As a real princess, she had received the most formal education and enjoyed the greatest amount of resources. She had the best bloodline that could drive the pure-blood nobles crazy. She had a flawless face that was like a gift from God. At such a young age, Noah Iyer was simply blessed by God. She was born with almost all the good things in the world. The nobles and bishops of the palace surrounded her, hoping to leave a good impression on her. Children of the same age were also desperately trying to curry favor with her under the orders of their parents. Praise was like a rising tide that blotted out the sky every day. Noah Iyer, who had received a complete etiquette education since she was a child, always responded with a smile, elegant and perfect. However, deep in her heart, the girl only had one feeling: boring. So boring that it even felt fake. Sometimes, she was so bored that she was going crazy. How did it feel when the whole world only had the same expression? Noah Iyer felt that she was the most qualified person to answer this question. In this day after day of boredom and restraint, Noah Iyer found that she began to have some strange interests in her heart. She especially liked the troubled expressions of others. She enjoyed it every time she saw it. Only occasionally, when her servants made mistakes and needed to be punished, she could release herself, but she could not overdo it. As a member of the Oracle family, she had to be merciful. As for the children of the nobles affiliated with the Heathcliff family, they were completely useless in this regard. Under the hierarchy, they looked at Noah Iyer with a halo. Their longing and obedience came from the bottom of their hearts. Don't punish the innocent. Be merciful to your supporters. This was also the family motto of Heathcliff. Noah Iyer, who had never made a mistake on matters of principle, was helpless. She could only wait silently searching for someone who wore the same mask as her, someone who could let her reveal her heart without any scruples. Then, today, she finally found him. You're really a liar that surprises me, Luoya. In the small living room where Ai Lizzie was sent away, a blonde girl was elegantly sipping her tea, the corners of her mouth curling up uncontrollably. Opposite her was a restless black-haired boy. Ha, your highness, perhaps there is some misunderstanding between us. Another lie. But it doesn't matter. You can continue. The way you struggle with all your might is pretty good in my eyes. Noah Iyer squinted her eyes as if she was appreciating something. The happy expression from the bottom of her heart made her delicate face even more delicate. However, in Luoya's eyes, this expression was very familiar. This was the happy expression of a Noah Iyer when it had its eyes on its prey. Fuck. This sadist is targeting me. What should I do? Can't you stay away from me? I don't want to die. Luoya, who was sweating profusely, began to shut her mouth and urgently thought of a countermeasure. Noah Iyer didn't mind and continued to speak. But to be honest, I'm a little surprised. Let's not talk about other problems for now. I was originally very confident in my own appearance. I didn't expect that even this would be denied by you. Although that little girl named Ai Lizzie is also very beautiful, I shouldn't lose to her, right? Why are you so resistant to me? Could it be? Noah Iyer leaned forward. Her blue eyes gazed at the nervous Luoya and smiled sweetly. You know my hidden heart. When the boy heard Noah Iyer say this sentence, it was as if he heard the sound of a chess piece hitting a chessboard. His whole body stiffened. Regarding the problem of Noah Iyer with a lie detector, Luoya only had 3 choices: admit, acquiesce, or deny and admit after being detected. Damn it, what's there to choose? Walking into a dead end, Luoya flew into a rage out of humiliation and directly smashed the pot. Chapter 18. This was the first time Noah Iyer had a strong desire to possess something in the 10 years since he was born. In the living room, the girl who had her foot between Luoya's legs was smiling. Her cheeks were flushed, and her eyes were filled with the natural power of a superior, as if everything belonged to her. She also had a demonic aura of persuasion, making people unable to bear to reject her. The holy beauty of the angel was currently covered with a layer of evil desire. The young man felt as if he was looking at a grown-up Noah Iyer. However, this was only for a moment. After a moment of absent-mindedness, Luoya hurriedly pulled away from the girl's hand and regained his freedom. What are you talking about? Didn't I tell you to stay away from me? I don't want to have anything to do with you. Luoya sniffed the suddenly sweet air and sighed in his heart. Fortunately, this was a little Noah Iyer, and not the future version of the Noah Iyer. Otherwise, he might not be able to resist the temptation. Actually, it was quite nice to be a little pet of a Noah Iyer. Miss Angel had the best beauty and status in the entire continent. Moreover, she spoiled all her pets and was very possessive. She only allowed him to bully her. Just like the main character in a game, being a dog was quite fun. However, being a dog was one thing, being a dead dog was another. How could a villain and a main character be the same? If he were to copy everything, he wouldn't even know how he died. With the flag as the central goal, everything else was bullshit. No matter how good the treatment was, one had to be alive to enjoy it, right? You clearly know everything about me, yet you still enlighten me. Now you're against me. The rejected Noah Iyer was a little puzzled. He thought for a moment and said, "What do you hate about me? I can change, or do you have a prejudice against my family?" Neither. I'm just not interested. Speaking of which, why do you have to find me? Luoya asked helplessly. Noah Iyer was silent for a moment, then said indifferently, "Because I think what you said is still too idealistic. Maybe you don't care about me like this, but others might not. They might use this to attack me and my family, or even threaten me." Noah Iyer, who had heard countless conspiracy stories since she was a child, was thoughtful and thoughtful. At this moment, she actually had the faint demeanor of a monarch, which made Luoya, who was beneath her, unable to help but hold her breath. Fuck, this is a child who is not even 10 years old. Were all aristocratic children in this world in hell mode? Why were all of them so fierce? No wonder the original Luoya was a flop. Compared to these true elites, the previous Luoya was like a retard. Thinking of this, the youth suddenly remembered that the average age of a commoner's marriage in this world was less than 14 years old. Thinking about it this way, it could be said that the average person matured early, especially Ai Lizzie, who had lived alone since she was young. She was even more mature. Don't you have subordinates? The children of the affiliated nobles and the like. That won't do. Letting your subordinates have something on you is also a big taboo, and there is also the possibility of your secret being leaked. No, so they can't do it, but I can. Luoya asked strangely. Noah Iyer blinked and rubbed her cheeks as she pondered. I don't know why, but I have a feeling that you won't betray me. Moreover, as one of the 5 great aristocrats, spreading my scandal won't benefit you much. Besides, there is also Uncle Ka-dia. The more the blonde girl thought about it, the more she felt that Luoya was reliable. Seeing this, the youth panicked and hurriedly interrupted this troublesome thought. All right, don't think about it anymore. Can you put your foot down first? Ai Lizzie will be back soon. Aya, are you worried that I will be exposed? Worried about your head? Luoya, who was having a headache from Noah Iyer's questions, directly reached out and pulled the girl's foot down. The feeling of his hand touching the girl's ankle made the youth's heart skip a beat. TSK, she is quite delicate. Oh right, I forgot to ask before. How did you know about my hobby? Is it a mind-reading skill? Mind reading your head? If I had that kind of cheating skill, would I be tricked by you? I just know what kind of person you will be in the future. Luoya, who was secretly ridiculing in his heart, did not show it on his face, as if Nuo Ayer was mentioning a trivial matter. No comment. Chapter 19. Ka Dia felt that his son had made a name for himself. Leaning back in his chair, the Marquis recalled today's surprise. Today's meeting was originally meant to be a meeting between Prince Cain and Kadia to discuss matters regarding the Order of Knights. Coincidentally, Kadia's child was recently receiving guidance from the Order of Knights, and Cain, who doted on his child, wanted to give his child a break, so they came together by coincidence. But Kadia didn't expect this coincidence to lead to an unexpected development. Nuo Ayer Heidi Crete. This was a name that all the nobles in Saint Mestre were familiar with. She had a pure bloodline, an excellent character, and limitless potential. She was a perfect princess, and although she was young, no one dared to underestimate her. If there was a flaw, it would be that she was too perfect for a child. She wasn't close to anyone other than her family. Even Kai Yin would sometimes complain that his daughter didn't stick to him, as if she didn't want others to understand her. But today, such an independent and aloof flower actually threw herself into the arms of someone she met for the first time. She was even reluctant to part with him. If Ka Dia hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed it. What was even more unbelievable was that this person was actually his son. Shia above, what the hell is going on? Ka Dia was confused. After Kai Yin and the others left, he repeatedly sized up Luoya several times, but couldn't find anything. He could only attribute it to Luoya's own efforts. Ever since that conversation, the youth had changed a lot. This time, the way he received guests was also very different from before. He was very polite and natural. But even so, Luoya must have put in a lot of effort to build a good relationship with the princess. Sigh, it's been hard on the child. Ka Dia lamented that it didn't exist. In fact, it was the complete opposite. He looked at Luoya with a kind gaze. As a father, Ka Dia often thought about how to pave the way for Luoya. He wanted to let his child, who didn't have any supernatural powers, live a better life in this mysterious world. Among them, it could be said that building a good relationship with others was the most important, especially the other noble families. Heidi Crete, as the most powerful force and royalty in the theocracy, was naturally an indispensable part of this. Originally, Ka Dia wanted to pass on his knowledge to Luoya through his relationship with Kai Yin, but he didn't expect that this meeting with Heidi Crete would make it so that he didn't need to do so. On the contrary, Noel's intimacy with Roha made Ka Dia begin to consider whether to change the position of the Akate family and take a step closer to the royal family. With the protection of the royal family and the Akate family, even if Roha didn't have any power, he should be able to live peacefully for the rest of his life. And with the situation of the two children, they should be friendly in the future. Maybe even, no matter what, it was too early to think about this. Ka Dia glanced at the boy who was feeding Ai Lizzie and shook his head slightly. His children and grandchildren had their own fortune. Plans couldn't keep up with changes, so it was useless to think about it now. Ka Dia didn't like the traditional aristocratic marriage, because he was free to love. Luoya could be said to be the fruit of true love, which was also one of the main reasons why he had always spoiled his child. Looking at the warm scene of his cute son feeding his young adopted daughter, Ka Dia, who was already in a good mood, ate an extra lamb chop. However, he didn't know that Luoya's feelings were completely different from his. Master, did I mess things up? Since Nuo Ayer left, Luoya had been thinking about this problem. As a reincarnated person with memories of his past life, Luoya had always set a goal for his actions. That was to remove the death flag, in other words, to survive. To achieve this goal, Luoya had already summarized several necessary and insufficient conditions. Among them, avoiding the decline of his family, treating Ai Lizzie well, and not getting involved with other storyline characters was also one of them. But today, this plan met with a major failure. Don't even talk about getting involved, he was already being targeted. Moreover, it was by one of the four main female leads, Noah Iyer, who was the most difficult to deal with. Calm down, at this time, I must be calm. If I think hard, I'm not in a desperate situation. In the end, the reason why he didn't want to meet characters from his past life was because he was afraid of the so-called storyline force. However, after observing for so long, Luoya felt that this kind of thing didn't exist in this world. This was a real world and not a game world. Most people's brains were normal. There was no such thing as love or hate for no reason. The biggest evidence was the improvement in his relationship with AI Lizzie. If there was a so-called storyline force, then no matter what Luoya did, she should hate him. In other words, meeting Noah Iyer this time didn't mean that Luoya would walk on the path of evil villain. Moreover, the relationship between Luoya and Noah Iyer was different from the game. If it was the bully of the past, he would have licked the girl from the bottom of his heart the moment he saw her. He wouldn't have activated the pendant to detect lies, and wouldn't have attracted the Noah Iyer's special attention. Yes, if he thought about it this way, the master's method was completely different from his, then the possibility of the same ending would be smaller. Probably. Luoya repeatedly encouraged himself in his heart. His expression naturally didn't look very good. That distracted look was completely different from the way his eyes lit up when he looked at AI Lizzie. Chapter 20. At the dining table of Akat's house, Luoya, who was in the middle of his daily healing session, suddenly noticed something. AI Lizzie was a little strange today. The youth stared at AI Lizzie's head, his small eyes filled with doubt. Where are my favorability? Why isn't it increasing? As Luoya's favorability, AI Lizzie would usually have a green light above her head during dinner time. However, today, AI Lizzie's head was completely silent. Not a single-digit favorability popped up. Is it because AI Lizzie's favorability isn't green? Or is it because my eyes have a filter? Luoya thought it was strange. He thought that there was a problem with his system, but when he turned his head, he saw Kadia looking at him with a green light above her head. That's not right. There's nothing wrong with the system. Could it be that there's a problem with AI Lizzie? Thinking of this possibility, Luoya carefully observed the girl. Sure enough, he found something strange. Today, AI Lizzie kept her head down and didn't speak much. The smile on her face was very forced. Tears welled up in her ruby-like eyes, as if she was being bullied. What's going on? Seeing AI Lizzie's expression, Luoya was furious. As the core power source of the favorability system, AI Lizzie could be said to be extremely important to Luoya. She could even affect the revival of the territory and affect Luoya's life and death. At this time, whoever dared to make AI Lizzie unhappy was going against Luoya. They were hindering the development of the territory and indirectly trying to kill him. This kind of person should be knocked over with a punch and then stepped on 10,000 times. Although he was furious, Luoya's face revealed a gentle smile. He began to ask the girl why she was unhappy. He didn't expect AI Lizzie to stare at him speechlessly. What's going on? Luoya, whose head was full of question marks, thought for a moment and then softened his tone. AI Lizzie, what do you want to say? Is there something that even I can't tell you? Luoya asked several questions in succession, but the girl responded with silence. Seeing this, Luoya felt even more strange. What's going on? AI Lizzie was usually very obedient. Why wasn't she saying anything this time? Could it be that there was something hidden? No, he had to get the answers no matter what. Having made up her mind, Luoya rolled her eyes and started her shameless acting career again. Is that so? You can't tell me. I understand. The young man who was staring at the girl said in a low and powerless tone, as if he had suffered a blow. Originally, I thought that AI Lizzie would be able to open her heart to me. Now, it seems that I overestimated myself. Sorry, AI Lizzie, pretend that I didn't say anything. Luoya sighed dejectedly, causing the silent girl to suddenly raise her head. AI Lizzie saw the young man's dejected look and felt pain in her heart. She hurriedly explained. No. No, it's not like that. I just. The girl wanted to confess, but she hesitated several times. In the end, she could only lower her head and slowly squeeze out a sentence with difficulty. Big brother, you don't like AI Lizzie anymore? Ah. Luoya, who was in the midst of acting, was stunned when he heard AI Lizzie's question. He unconsciously asked a silly question. Then, he widened his eyes and asked in confusion. Why would you think that? Because compared to me, Big Brother likes Miss Noah Iyer more. Chapter 21. This was the first time Luoya experienced the feeling of being spammed by the system since he had the system. In the living room, the young boy was hugging the young girl. His eyes were filled with green light. In just 10 seconds, more than 20 messages had appeared, scaring Luoya. Damn, why do I feel like this wave of messages is catching up to all the previous ones? But AI Lizzie is fine, but why are you green too? Luoya turned around and looked at Anna, who was spamming green light with tears in her eyes. His head was full of question marks. What's going on? Why is she crying? The young boy was confused and couldn't figure out what was going on. Anna was touched and felt that she was on the right ship. Sure enough. The young master and the young miss are true love. No matter how good the princess is, it can't compare to the true love between the young master and the young miss. Miss Anna, the fanatic CP fan, was actually very nervous today. Noah Iyer's perfection was not only seen by Luoya and the others, but also left a deep impression on the servants of the Marquis mansion. She was as cute and beautiful as Elisa. She was elegant and generous in her own way. Her status was even higher than Elisa's. Most importantly, she had a good impression of the young master. The combination of these powerful weapons had even shaken the morale of some people. In the future, there will definitely be people who think that the young master and Noah Iyer are a better match. Maybe even the master will think so, but I won't. Anna clenched her hands and looked at the two children hugging each other. She strengthened her belief in her heart. In this world, especially among the nobles, true love was hard to come by. Many couples had never even met each other before they got married. Marriage had become an item with a clear price tag. The value of free love was like the most expensive luxury in the world to some people. It was so unattainable. Perhaps Noah Iyer was indeed a perfect princess. With the support of the royal family, the Akkad family would be more prosperous. But in the face of true love, young master, these are not worth mentioning. You must be like the master and hold your own happiness with your own hands. Thinking about her future, Anna became sad. She looked at Luoya with burning eyes, hoping to pass her faith to him. Unfortunately, Luoya didn't understand Anna's meaning at all. What's going on? Did I do something wrong? That's not right, the favorability is increasing. Moreover, all the nearby servants seem to be increasing as well. Luoya, why is AI Lizzie crying? Kadia, who was deep in thought, finally noticed the two children's strange behavior and asked about it. Luoya stopped and looked around. AI Lizzie remembered the story in Wizard Origins that she read yesterday. She's scared. Oh, I see. Those stories are really scary. It's too early for AI Lizzie to read them. Kadia nodded in relief, and Luoya coaxed AI Lizzie for a while. She looked at her father and suddenly had an idea. She wanted to take this opportunity to ask some questions that had been bothering her. By the way, father, I've always wanted to ask you something about Magi. Is it convenient now? You're actually interested in these things. Well, if there's anything you want to ask, feel free to ask. Dia, who discovered that his son was interested in magi, was in a good mood. He put down his knife and fork and directly entered the dessert and chatting time. Luoya also took the opportunity to ask about the power system of this world. Father, is there any classification for the profession of magi? Classification? Yes, just like gold, silver, and so on. Don't bloodlines have similar grades? Luoya recalled the various bloodlines in the system store and asked somewhat unconfidently. Dia suddenly understood. Oh, you're talking about the degree of mutation? Degree of mutation? That's right. In this world, all the people who use supernatural powers will inevitably be eroded by the magic element. The reason people use supernatural powers can be said to be the result of adapting to this erosion. We call it mutation. The degree of mutation affects the strength of an extraordinary to a certain extent. This kind of mutation is basically divided into 7 steps according to the human body, which is the source rank. From the 7th step to the 1st step of the source rank, the degree of mutation will gradually increase, and the supernatural power will also become stronger. Dia explained with a smile while drinking tea. Luoya heard this and muttered in his heart. Why does the word mutation sound a bit perverted? Don't tell me I'll become some kind of monster. Thinking of this, the teenager looked at his father, who was the chief wizard of the knights, and asked again. Does mutation have any effect on the body? Like becoming ugly or something? Chapter 22. Within the cafeteria, Dia carefully explained to Luoya the structure of this world's supernatural powers, allowing Luoya, who had never really understood much about these things, to completely reconstruct himself. Dia first explained the concept of shamans. Shamans were a term used to refer to some people, but it wasn't actually an accurate term. It was a bit like the workers in Luoya's previous world. Repairing cars, writing code, moving bricks, most people could be called workers, but it was impossible to know who they were and what they did. It was very vague. To describe a supernatural person's power, we should start with origin substance, then origin grade, and finally the path. For example, the Saint Might warriors in the Holy Capital should be called Benevolence, origin grade 3, light protectors. Benevolence? That's right. This is their origin substance. It can also be said to be the classification of power and the path to advancement. Dia earnestly explained to Luoya. After expending a lot of effort, Luoya finally understood the meaning of origin substances. There were originally no paths in this world, but after many people walked them, they became paths. This saying came from a famous person in Luoya's previous world, but in this world, it could be used as an explanation for origin substances. The pursuit of transcendence and the acquisition of greater power was the main theme of this world that had not changed since the first era. It was not recorded in the history books of mankind and only existed in poems. Naturally, there would be winners and losers in the long road of exploration. Let's not talk about losers for now, but when a winner appeared, they would often do one thing: record down their own path for future generations to refer to. This was the origin substance from the very beginning. Origin substances could be understood as a relatively stable path to advancement. It allowed people who were originally aimlessly exploring to quickly enter the supernatural realm, and then safely climb up step by step according to the experiences of their predecessors. Father, how many origin substances are there? No one knows. Since ancient times, we've discovered tens of thousands of origin substances, but there aren't many that are common, and there are even fewer that are suitable for humans. Suitable for humans? That's right. The origin substances that humans use now are actually left behind by the ancient races that disappeared. For example, benevolence, from before. Legend has it that it was an origin substance discovered by the angels, and it belonged to the Heathcliff family. It's a system that only the theocracy has. Dia's words opened a door for Luoya. Before this, the youth had never thought that the supernatural power in this world would be so complicated, and there was no such thing as a warrior profession. No wonder the game in his previous life had completely omitted it. I understand. Then, Father, you belong to the origin substance, benevolence, system. No, my origin substance is wisdom, an origin substance that originated from the scholar's country, Bulonia. Its origin can no longer be traced, and it is one of the 3 origin substances recognized by the Church. 3 substances, origin substances. Yes, Saint Mestres, mercy, Bulonia's, wisdom, and Pender's, courage. These 3 origin substances are deemed to be the most suitable for humans and are also recognized by the Church. Other than that, the Church doesn't recognize any other origin substances. Those who use them as the source of power are deemed as heretics. But why is that? Apart from these 3 most suitable origin substances for humans, the other origin substances are either very unstable or unsuitable for humans. Following this system might have serious consequences, such as not being able to advance smoothly or having terrible side effects. I see. Then, what happens if I'm judged as a heretic? If you're judged as a heretic, you won't be able to enter the Holy Capital. The Shia Church in all the countries will not receive you, and you won't have any of the benefits of the Church. You can say that you're being ostracized, but that's all. Won't I be caught and burned to death? Luoya asked carefully, and Kadia was stunned. Of course not. There are too many small sects in each country. Even the theocracy doesn't have the power to do such a thing. Besides, many heretics didn't commit any crimes, so how could they be burned to death? However, there are some extremely vicious heretics that are within the theocracy's attack range. Oh, that's good. That's good. Hearing the man's answer, the boy heaved a sigh of relief and felt a little safer. It seemed that the Church in this world wasn't as scary as the Middle Ages in his previous world. They wouldn't randomly use witches to judge people and put them on the stake. This made Luoya, who was in the gold exchange district, calm down a little. Then, what happens if the nobles in our theocracy are heretics? Won't they be killed? Not if they haven't committed any crimes, but they will be stripped of their noble status. TSK, isn't that the same as being crippled? Chapter 23. Luoya was quite familiar with the country of scholars, Bologna. In the game of his previous life, it was a place that Luoya was quite familiar with. In a word, it was a place similar to Academy City. There were scholars doing research or students who came to study everywhere. It was full of the vitality of adolescence. But in his previous life, Luoya naturally wouldn't think about the long history and significance of a place in the game. But now, Luoya suddenly felt the prosperity and power of that place. Established a country. The power of the school is so strong to this extent? Yes, but it's not a single school, but a parliament jointly established by many schools. The system is relatively loose and friendly to the nearby countries. It's now regarded as a talent supply base for various countries. Kadia looked at Luoya and Ai Lizi who were listening to him and smiled. You will go there in the future. When the time comes, you must enjoy it. School life is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Father, have you been there? Ai Lizi, who had stopped crying a long time ago, asked curiously after hearing Kadia's words. The man nodded with nostalgia. Of course, I'm a graduate there. It was also at that time that I chose Bologna's wisdom, and not the theocracy's mercy. It was a place that had a great impact on me. Go to school in Bologna? Are you kidding me? That's not school, that's a funeral. Dad, do you know how many elites of the continent are there? Do you know how many proud sons of heaven are waiting to chop your son up? I'm afraid it'll be difficult for me to come back. Luoya complained in his heart, but he couldn't say it out loud. He could only force a smile. Kadia recalled the past and began to talk again. If the wizards are a large group, then another group of the same size or even larger is the knights. I don't need to say the rest, but you should know. The kingdom of knights, Pandey. That's right. Knights are also divided into different factions, but due to the differences between each person, there aren't many organizations. Pender's royal family is the largest faction, and they hold the core secrets of the courage origin substance. Luoya nodded silently after listening to Ka Dia's explanation. She had finally grasped the crux of the matter. The source substance was the core technology. As long as one mastered the channel and method of ascension, one could continuously cultivate extraordinaries and become the overlord of a region. For example, the Heathcliff family, which had the bloodline bonus, was simply the king of kings. Was it too late to lick the Noah ire now? At this moment Roja seriously considered whether he should sell himself as a pet or not, but then he dispelled the idea. As a person with a system, Luoya felt that independence was the right way to go. There was no animal protection association in this world, and it was not easy to be a dog. By the way, father, what kind of origin substance am I? Luoya suddenly remembered the two useless curses she knew and wanted to ask which family she was following. Ka Dia was silent for a moment, then she said awkwardly, the origin substance is required. At least, it needs to be of the 5th level. You're currently at the 7th level, so those basic curses are all universal. You don't need the origin substance. Fine, it's just that I'm too weak, so no one wants me. I understand, Luoya added in his heart, but he was relieved. After all, the origin substance sounded very mysterious. He didn't know if it could come out after entering the system, or if there would be any serious consequences. If it couldn't be changed, it would be the end for Luoya. After all, he had the gold coin exchange mall. He remembered that the system scanned his body at that time before replacing the pile of shiny equipment with the current pile of dark equipment. According to this, he and the angels, mercy, were basically goodbye. Similarly, the knights, courage, should have nothing to do with him. Among the 3 origin substances, only wisdom could be counted on, but it was more likely to be a pagan origin substance. As for a cult, Luoya wouldn't consider it. If a pagan was caught, they would be exiled. If a cult was caught, they would be directly arrested and sent to jail. If they committed a crime, they would be beheaded. Of course, the most important thing was that Luoya in the game's plot should be a cult. So for this part, no matter how big the temptation was, Luoya wouldn't touch it. It was simply courting death. But if it was possible, Luoya didn't want to go to that troublesome school. Wouldn't it be good to be bored? Wouldn't it be good to eat and sleep every day? Do you have to meet the male and female protagonists? Father, you know my situation. I'm not interested in supernatural powers. I just want to govern the territory well. Can I not go to Bulona? Luoya asked tentatively, making the bright-eyed AI Lizzie's little face collapse. However, Ka Dia shook his head. No, you still have to go. Chapter 24. What are you curious about? You're the same age as Noah Iyer, so of course you'll go to school together. No, I know that, but why do I have to accompany her? Luoya asked with a pale face. After Ka Dia's explanation, she finally understood what was going on. Even though St. Freya Academy was an academy, the students were basically nobles from various countries, and there was a natural relationship between them. Under such circumstances, it was common sense to form a group with the students from their own country. And Noah Iyer, as the princess, naturally couldn't be let out. In fact, all the children of the same age as Noah Iyer in the theocracy would go to school that year to increase the influence of the students in the theocracy and prevent the heirs from being bullied. To put it bluntly, it was an escort. Of course, this kind of escort wasn't written in any documents, but for the children of the same age as the royal family, it was a good opportunity, because they could get a free ride. St. Freya Academy was the best academy, and the tuition fees were quite expensive even for the nobles. Many small noble families couldn't squeeze out that much money for their children to go to school, but in this year, as long as you said that your child wanted to go to school but didn't have the money, the royal family would immediately rush over to stop you. Hey, that's not right. No matter how hard it is, you can't let your child suffer, and no matter how poor you are, you can't be poor in education. Do you know St. Freya Academy? The best academy in Shia. I'll pay to send your child to school. Oh, right, our princess is also going to school this year, what a coincidence. So, cough cough, you get it, right? At this time, the nobles who understood tacitly would praise the generosity of the royal family while accepting the money. Then, they would go home and pick up their brats, telling them to quickly follow their princess after entering the academy. They would tell them to go east and not to go west, and that they had to be a lackey. In this way, it was guaranteed that every royal family would bring their own group in the academy, and when there was a conflict, there would be someone to lead the charge. It was a guarantee of a beautiful school life. However, as one of the 5 great nobles of the theocracy, the Akkad family was paying for their own tuition, so naturally, they wouldn't be such a lowly lackey. Luoya followed Noah Iyer to the academy to manage this group of people, in other words, to be his assistant. This was actually a pretty good position. On one hand, he could use this opportunity to recruit young and promising aristocratic elites. On the other hand, he could make the royal family owe him a favor. Furthermore, he would be a close classmate of the royal family's heir. He had been a superior and subordinate during his school days. This was a huge treasure. Many 2-person teams in this situation returned to this familiar pattern after the royal family inherited the throne. The nobleman in charge directly became an important minister of the country and had power over a region. Originally, I was still a little worried, but this time, seeing how close you are to Her Highness, Prince Kai-en and I are very happy. You two will definitely cooperate very well. Ka-dia said optimistically, which formed a sharp contrast with Luoya who looked as if she was about to die. The conversation lasted until the end of the day. After eating dessert, the 3 people who had been busy all day went back to their rooms to rest. Luoya didn't sleep immediately after returning to his room. Instead, he sat on a chair and carefully pondered over today's matters. Putting aside the matter of Noah Iyer for the time being, Ka-dia's description of the supernatural power system and the influence of the origin substance on the world could be said to have reshaped his worldview. Some of the previously inexplicable things in the game now made sense. After pondering for a while, Luoya felt that he was still in a relatively dangerous situation. Especially when the powerful strength he displayed in the game came from a cult that the country didn't recognize. It could be said that this made the youth particularly uneasy. Where the hell did he learn this from? Ka-dia's origin substance was Bulonia's wisdom. That was a legitimate seedling, which ruled out the possibility of it being passed down in his family. Until now, Luoya hadn't come into contact with any cult members. So, there was only one possibility left. That was, he hadn't come into contact with them yet. This could lead Luoya on the wrong path in the game. The current Luoya hadn't experienced it yet. Or he was quietly waiting in the future. Obviously, this feeling of knowing that something was about to happen to him wasn't a good feeling. It was even a little frightening. Regarding this situation, Luoya felt that it was necessary to strengthen his strength to resist. Before the cult came, he would train and walk their path, so that they have no way to go. After making up his mind, Luoya began to look for ways to strengthen himself. In the end, he discovered that before he needed the origin substance, which was before source rank 5, his supernatural power increased with his growth. This was the so-called talent. After that, there were rituals or other external forces that could intervene to help him improve. So, how could he ensure his healthy growth? According to the experience of this world, it was to practice more spells and train his body. However, Luoya wasn't able to do these 2 things at the moment. Luoya, who only knew 2 basic spells, didn't have any interest in practicing them. He was also lazy in the aristocratic swordsmanship class. The master he hired was said to be a palace guard in the holy capital. He had some real skills, but Luoya wasn't cut out for it. Such a situation, coupled with his mediocre talent, resulted in Luoya being weak. After a painful lesson, Luoya decided to completely transform himself. Every day, he set aside a certain amount of time to practice that annoying middle finger spell. He persisted in training his body and put in the right attitude to learn swordsmanship. Of course, he didn't forget his own unique advantages. BLO Physique Modifier Type 2, a product of the Long War in the BLO region. It originated from a one-time strengthening agent used by ordinary soldiers. However, it's worth mentioning that it's a one-time use not for potions but for soldiers. Side effects: burning of internal organs, reduced lifespan. Price: 500 gold coins. Hehe, a one-time use is fine. Speaking of which, how much is my lifespan reduced? If this isn't written, how am I supposed to drink it? Am I tired of living? Chapter 25. Luoya had always felt that the items in the gold exchange district were very strange. From the previous bloodline to the current blood improvement potion, all of them had side effects that made him doubt his life. The blood improvement potion cost 500 gold coins. In order to not die after taking the potion, he had to spend another 1,500 gold coins. This logic was simply amazing. It could be said to be the strongest bundled sale. The people of Burrow were truly fortunate. Luoya exclaimed in surprise. Then, he looked up Burrow and found that there was no such place in the empire. After that, Luoya asked the tutor who taught him geography and customs, but he still found nothing. Young master, although there is such a place, it's within the empire's borders. Furthermore, there was no war there. It doesn't match your description. I'm afraid you remembered it wrongly. The white-bearded and white-haired old scholar, Florit, who was said to have traveled around the world when he was young, said so. He looked at Luoya with eyes full of disdain. In his eyes, this was a rumor that this ignorant and incompetent young master had heard from somewhere. If he couldn't answer the question, Luoya could find an excuse to skip class. All right, I understand, Teacher Florit. Then let's begin the class. However, what he didn't expect was that Luoya didn't use this as a pretext to make a fuss. Instead, he seriously attended the geography and customs class. However, after the class, he asked a strange question. Teacher Florit, is there anyone who still has a map of the human world before the Third Era? A map before the Turin Rebellion? No, that's too ancient. Maps themselves are extremely expensive items. I'm afraid that only the royalty of each country would have a map from 1,000 years ago. I see. I understand. Luoya nodded and bid farewell to this old scholar who had a bad temper. He knew that the burrow in the system should only exist in the distant past, at least 1,000 years ago. After the Third Era, the westward migration had dealt a considerable blow to human civilization. Most of the documents and information had been lost. Naturally, there was no way to verify the location of Burrow. In fact, the war-torn area where this incredibly powerful potion was invented no longer existed in anyone's memory. A lost history, a buried civilization. Luoya muttered to himself. Suddenly, he felt an inexplicable sense of desolation. Perhaps in this world, Luoya was the only one who knew about Bilelo, the place that had experienced many wars and had strange but miraculous effects. Forget it, it's useless to think so much. Let's think about how to raise the money. Luoya didn't have the time to be sentimental. He needed to raise a sum of money as soon as possible and buy the item within a month. It wasn't that Luoya was impatient and wanted to improve his body and potential immediately. The real reason he was anxious was because of the following lines in the system: Frowny Face limited offer this month, 50% off, be on the lookout. Physique Modifier Type 2, price, 250 gold coins, Bilelo Hyperthermal Buffer, price, 750 gold coins. Limited time special offer. 50% off. He saved a total of 1,000 gold coins. Not only that, but it's also the basic body improvement that Roha wanted. Although its price doesn't seem to be high level in the system, but this kind of potion isn't sold in any country. It's a priceless potion. The items in the gold exchange area were changed once a month, and there were only 2 discounted items. It was because of this that Luoya was especially anxious. The potato chips next door weren't always at half price. Wouldn't it be stupid not to use this kind of bargain? However, even if it was 1,000 gold coins, it was still too much for Luoya. His pocket money was only 20 gold coins a month. Even if he went out to ask Dia for money, he would only give him a few dozen or 100 gold coins. At this rate, he wouldn't be able to raise 1,000 gold coins in a year. It was important to note that as the chief magus of the knights, Dia's monthly salary was only a few hundred gold coins. A normal civil servant of the Holy Capital would only earn about 100 gold coins a month, and this was in a large city where the living standards and prices were higher. So what should he do now? If he couldn't raise the money through conventional means, he couldn't just rob, right? Regarding this problem, Luoya racked his brains and decided to use a big move that could eat all the food in the world. It was called, Empty-Handed White Wolf. Currently, Luoya didn't have nothing. It was better to say that he was the entrance to a treasure, and this treasure was the system. Chapter 26. Sorophia was a family name that almost everyone in Xia knew. In this world where information was underdeveloped, it was normal for people born in the Austin Empire to not know about the Heathcote family. It was also understandable for people born in the theocracy to not know about the royal family of the Ackman family. However, almost everyone knew about the family name Sorophia. The reason was, of course, the Sorophia United Chamber of Commerce. The Sorophia United Chamber of Commerce was born in the Rose Commercial United Nations, located in the middle of many human countries. It was named after the Rose River that ran through the north and south. The convenient transportation and geographical location made it a commercial center since the beginning of the Third Era. Unfortunately, the people living there did not live well. An important commercial hub was basically equivalent to an important military hub, so this place was actually a place that was fought over by the military. Since ancient times, it had changed owners several times. Unfortunately, the people in Rose were very rich, so it created a ridiculous scene of waves of people fighting over it. They were old leaks. This situation lasted until more than 200 years ago, during the reign of the tyrant of the Austin Empire, Cavan II. The local merchants in Rose finally could not stand the harsh tyranny, so they raised a flag and rebelled, establishing the Rose Commercial United Nations. Of course, the process of establishing the country did not go smoothly. Several major chambers of commerce that rebelled at the beginning were later oppressed and instigated by the Austin Empire's army. Some were stabbed in the back and some surrendered, fully showing the ugly face of capitalism. However, there was one chamber of commerce, or rather, a family that persisted, and that was Sorophia. The Sorophia family was a rare family with a backbone among the group of mercenary merchants, and it was precisely because of this backbone that the history of the Sorophia family could be said to be very tragic. Yes, it was the one that was stabbed in the back. At that time, the Sorophia family was sold out by a trader, and only the youngest son of the family escaped. When the Austin Empire attacked the city, they pulled the entire Sorophia family to the front and asked the youngest son to open the city and surrender. However, the old patriarch was too stubborn and committed suicide on the spot. He would rather die than become a hostage. Later, it was proven that the Austin Empire had made a bad move and had underestimated the determination of the people of Rosetta to resist them. The war lasted for more than 10 years, and the Austin Empire had used all kinds of methods. Rosetta City had changed hands several times, and had even been massacred. However, the more they fought, the more the resistance grew. The worst battle was when the city of Rosetta was besieged for 7 months. The provisions in the city were exhausted, and the people in the city could only rely on the fish and shrimp in the river every day to survive. The two sides of the busiest street, Ossel Avenue, were filled with corpses. The general of the Austin Empire came forward with freshly baked bread to persuade the soldiers to surrender. For a time, the morale of the soldiers on the city wall was shaken. At the crucial moment, grim Sorophia went up to the top of the city wall and chopped off half of his arm on the spot. He carried the bloody piece of meat and told the whole army that they could come and eat him if they were hungry, but the city wall must not be opened. When the soldiers of the city saw this scene, they cried bitterly and swore that they would rather be the ghosts of Rosetta than the people of the empire. They swore that they would never surrender. It was said that the general of the Austin Empire, who had persuaded the soldiers to surrender, was ashen-faced. Not long after, he wrote a letter saying that he was ill and asked for a change of generals. The Sorophia family's reputation soared after this siege, but even so, Rosetta was still unable to compete with the Austin Empire in terms of size. However, as the saying goes, if you do evil, you will meet your doom. At the most difficult moment of the war, the theocracy stepped in. In order to capture Rosetta, the Austin Empire had used all kinds of inhumane strategies. Among them, the massacre of the city was a serious violation of the teachings of the primordial goddess. They had done too many immoral things, and no one could stand it anymore, let alone the theocracy, who had been rubbing their hands together all this time. In a game between great powers, what was important was stability, accuracy, and ruthlessness. The theocracy, who had found the entry point, came down on the Austin Empire and slammed them with dozens of crimes against humanity. They also announced that they recognized the independence of Rosetta and gave them a lot of support. Since then, the internal rebellion of the Austin Empire had evolved into a confrontation between the two behemoths, the Empire and the theocracy. The Sorophia family, who had received support, led the Rosetta and the Austin Empire to fight to the death. Finally, 100 years ago, the Austin Empire gave up on this land and signed a truce with the Sorophia family. Only then did the 100-Year War come to an end. The Sorophia family had sacrificed a lot in the process of establishing the Rosetta Commercial Union. Several generations of patriarchs had died in the war, and because of this, they had received great rewards after the war. The originally complicated Rosetta basically became the law of the land, and the Sorophia Chamber of Commerce officially stepped onto the stage of history. Now that 100 years had passed, the Sorophia Chamber of Commerce had spread all over the world, and their family had also become the richest family in the world. They were recognized as the uncrowned king, and had a huge influence on any country. The Achaite family was one of the 5 noble families of the theocracy, and the Achaite city that they ran was also one of the top cities in Saint Mestre. Because the previous patriarchs were all wizards, they basically did not manage the territory seriously. Therefore, Achaite city was ranked last among the 5 noble families in terms of prosperity. However, in terms of public security, it was the best. No one was so blind as to commit crimes in the territory of a military boss. Therefore, Achaite city could be said to be a place where the people lived and worked in peace. Such a stable environment was naturally loved by the merchants, and the Sorophia Chamber of Commerce would definitely not miss this place. Young master, this is the new winter product of the Sorophia Chamber of Commerce. Well, very good. In the lounge, Anna handed over a large but not heavy booklet to the young man who had just finished practicing his sword. Luoya took it and began to flip through it. This booklet was similar to the menu of a restaurant in Luoya's previous life. It was the Sorophia Chamber of Commerce's famous seasonal product collection. Simply put, it was a list of new products with pictures and descriptions. It was a rare advertising application in this world. As a merchant, the Sorophia Chamber of Commerce fully grasped the characteristics of nobles who liked to compete with others. In order to show their status, the rich nobles would often buy the entire booklet. Although Luoya's family was not poor, because they did not have a mistress, they did not have much demand in this aspect. But even so, seeing the Noa Ir Ai Lizi's dress that day was also customized from the Sorophia Chamber of Commerce, it could be seen that the Chamber of Commerce was all-pervasive. Luoya sighed and stroked the new product collection a few times. Even Luoya felt that the leather cover was a bit wasteful. This small booklet should be close to a gold coin, right? With this kind of style, no wonder they could make so much money. The young man was amazed at the huge financial resources of the Sorophia Chamber of Commerce while slowly flipping open the new product collection. The thing he was looking for was here. Chapter 27. The contents of Sorofia's new collection this season were very comprehensive, from all kinds of strange and miraculous cosmetics to daily life items, jewelry, perfumes, and even unique food and drinks. It was simply all-encompassing. The clothes only had the fabric, the designer, and the tailor's name, but there was no specific style because one of the things that noble women were most afraid of was wearing the same clothes. It would be very awkward if two people wore the same clothes at a ball, so Sorofia sold designers. After buying, they would visit the owner and design the clothes according to the owner to ensure that every dress was different. A.I. Lizzie's dress was a gift from Kadia when she first entered the door. It was really beautiful, and now it was a girl's favorite treasure. Of course, Luoya wasn't looking for these things. Although this new collection was beautiful, there was only one page that was useful to him. That was the purchase list on the last page. The role of the Chamber of Commerce was not only to sell, but also to buy, and this purchase list was the purchase request of Sorofia or its customers. For example, Luoya wanted soap, but there wasn't any in the area around Akate City. Then, Luoya could go to Sorofia and ask them to add in the purchase list something with a fragrance that could cleanse the body. This way, if anyone in the other parts of the theocracy had something like this, they could directly sell it to the local Sorofia Chamber of Commerce. Of course, in reality, they could get something like a stone with the same effect. This kind of request could only be made by big customers, and they had to deposit a part of the funds to the Chamber of Commerce in advance. After that, they still had to pay a reward. It could be said that this was a high-end business. What Luoya wanted to do now was to pick something to sell. There were two reasons for this. First, the people here were all rich, and the price they offered was much higher than the normal price of selling things to the Chamber of Commerce. Second, the things sold here couldn't be traced back. Whether it was the buyer or the seller, it was confidential. Only the Sorofia Chamber of Commerce knew the identities of the two, and Sorofia was a big business. They had been in this business for decades, and there had never been a leak. Simply put, it was cost-effective and safe. However, because it had to meet the requirements, Luoya was just trying his luck. What he didn't expect was that there was a purchase item that was similar to something in Luoya's shop. Item requirements: calming effect, suppressing the corrosion of the curse, preventing the undead. Luoya stared at these conditions, and then looked at the system's gold exchange area. Sanswoma's calming lamp, Priest Sanswoma's personally made oil lamp. With it, the people in the graveyard can enjoy peace, and no strange things will crawl out of it. Effect: duration before the fuel is burned out. Price: 5,000 gold coins. It seems. Luo of the undead. Luo of Luos, Luo 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 O, Luo Luo, Luo Luo O O O, Luo of it, Luo Luo, Luo 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 O O O. The Luo Luo Lulua O O. However, considering that the undead state should be the cause of the curse corrosion, this lamp should also be able to prevent the curse corrosion. It seemed that the conditions were quite compatible. Luoya nodded secretly, put the new product collection on the table, and then thought quietly. Father, I want to go to the Sorofia Merchant Association. Is there anything you want to buy? Why don't you just ask them to send someone over? In Kadia's study, Luoya made a request to go out, which made his father, who was writing something, a little puzzled. As a young master who was always provided with clothes and food, Luoya had never gone to the Sorofia Merchant Association by himself. Usually, whatever he wanted was sent over, but this kind of special agent was not in charge of business, so it was useless to meet him. Although he could bring someone along without saying anything, that would be very suspicious, so this time, Luoya wanted to take advantage of the public faction. Actually, I don't want to buy something for myself. The young man thought for a while, rubbed his hands and said so embarrassedly, which made Kadia curious. It's going to be winter soon. Since A.I. Lizzie came into our house, I haven't bought her any gifts, so this time, Sorofia Merchant Association has a new product, so I want to take a look and give her a surprise. Oh, is that so? Chapter 28. Alvin Danny felt that his life was quite comfortable. He was 40 years old this year, born in Rose. He had red hair and was a standard local. In his early years, he traveled around the world with a caravan. After becoming an outstanding businessman at the age of 30, he returned to Rose and was entrusted with a heavy responsibility. Now, he was the Akate City branch president of the Sorofia Chamber of Commerce. As one of the branch presidents of the Sorofia Chamber of Commerce in the Papal Kingdom, Alvin's status was not low. Even some of the nobles at the bottom could not compare with him. Of course, the person who could be received by him must have a high status. For example, this person now. Master Luoya, the 2 pieces of clothes you ordered will take about half a month to be delivered. By then, our people will personally send them to the Marquis Mansion. As for the dagger you requested, I'm afraid it will take longer, about 3 months. In a beautifully decorated room, Alvin explained the situation to the cute and handsome little boy in a black coat opposite him with a smile on his face. His kind and peaceful attitude was worthy of the title of branch president. The top Sigung black tea in the tea set on the table emitted a faint fragrance. With the exquisite tea set of Rose, it had a different style. Luoya leaned on the soft sofa and took a sip of tea. He raised his eyes and praised lightly. The tea is good. Ha, of course, I have to use the best tea to entertain you. I'm usually reluctant to drink this Sigung tea. Hee, who are you trying to fool? Luoya smiled, but he disdained this remark in his heart. Sorofia was famous for being rich. How could a branch president not be able to afford tea? What's the difference between this and old eights starving to death in the toilet? Elevate the other party's identity, hold up the other party's face, and wait for the other party's sense of superiority to make a big profit. In this way, the nobles who loved their face would generally swallow their teeth and bite the bullet. This set of leek harvesting method could be said to be the usual method of these businessmen. Immature young people with high self-esteem were particularly easy to fall for it. Unfortunately, Luoya was not included in these people. Good words, but old eight, don't try to fool me. The young man put down the teacup and did not answer Alvin's words. He thought for a moment and said, well, it doesn't matter. There's still time for 3 months. However, these are all trivial matters. I'm not talking to you alone to confirm these things. I understand. Young Master Luoya, if you have any requests, please feel free to tell us. We can prepare them for you. Alvin chuckled, looking kind and helpful, but a layer of disgust had already welled up in his heart. It was also a shady business. She had long heard that Marquis Kadia's son was ignorant and incompetent. She didn't expect him to be involved in such a shady business at such a young age. Let me guess what it is. Hallucinogenic grass or happy beet? Or was it a woman? Alvin thought for a while and decided to fool this young thug. Although the Sorofia Chamber of Commerce had some connections, it was forbidden to sell them. If Roja was already a marquis, then he could sell a few of them. But now he was just an heir. Marquis Kadia was a model noble and a powerful wizard. He would not allow his son to be involved in these things. If he were to investigate, Alvin would definitely be in trouble. The middle-aged man thought of this and smiled without saying a word. He did not expect to hear another matter. I want to sell you an item on the purchase list. Purchase items? Alvin blinked. He did not expect this young master to be here to sell something. However, it was only for a moment. After a second or two, Alvin returned to normal. Or rather, his smile deepened. I see. Then, which item do you want to sell? Number 172. It has the effect of calming the soul. It can suppress the corrosion of curse power and prevent items from becoming undead. Luoya said this sentence calmly. Alvin, who was about to open the list, stopped. His eyes that were focused on the new product collection suddenly shrank. Ha, you have a good memory. Well, there is indeed such an item in urgent purchase. Alvin pretended to flip through the list, but his heart was different from his appearance. Outsiders did not know the buyer of this purchase item, but Alvin, as the branch manager, knew very well. This purchase was issued by the Rose's main store, which meant that the person who wanted number 172 was probably a big shot from the main store. A dispensable transaction suddenly became a transaction that might be related to Alvin's future. The contrast between before and after made the middle-aged merchant's expression suddenly become serious. "Young Master Luoya, where is your item?" "It's still at home. I will come again tomorrow. If our deal is done, I will naturally bring it to you." Chapter 29. 50,000 gold coins. The middle-aged merchant in the reception room was shocked when he heard this number. The burning flame in his heart was like being splashed with a basin of cold water. He looked at Luoya, who was asking for an exorbitant price. He wanted to refute his ridiculous price on the spot, but when he thought of what he said before, he held back his words. "That, young Master Luoya, you may not know the market price. This price is really too high." Alvin rubbed his hands and smiled awkwardly. 50,000 gold coins. This is more than enough to buy a house in the holy capital. It's really too high for an item. Even a full set of inscription armor can't be sold at such a high price. Inscription armor? How can that kind of thing be compared with our family's item? Luoya frowned when he heard Alvin's words. He fully displayed his reputation as a thug. He immediately slammed the table and said angrily, "How can that kind of trash that people can make now be compared with our family's treasure? Father said that this is a unique item, and the price is at least tens of thousands." Luoya pulled out the banner of Kadia to shut Alvin's mouth. Seeing this, the middle-aged merchant eagerly said, "But we haven't seen your item yet." Such a high price is really. Roha made a solemn vow to use the honor of the Akate clan to endorse the Requiem lamp. Seeing this, President Alvin thought. Originally, the price of item 172 was estimated to be between 0 and 20,000 gold coins, but Sorofia had a rule. That was, the branch that received the item could earn a bonus for the difference in price. This was to encourage the other branches to take action, so the branch could only offer a price of 15,000 gold coins at most. However, considering Luoya's situation this time, Alvin decided to pay a little. He thought for a while and said, "I think 18,000 gold coins is more appropriate." "What do you think, young Master Luoya?" Alvin looked at the young man opposite him who didn't seem to understand the business rules at all. He was worried that the huge price difference would make him unhappy. However, he didn't expect Luoya to put down the teacup and walk out without saying a word. Wait, young Master Luoya, what are you doing?" Alvin, who had been a traveling merchant for half his life, quickly stepped forward and stopped in front of the black-haired youth. Upon seeing this, Luoya said indifferently, "Mr. Alvin, I doubt your sincerity now. The price you offered is not even half of mine. Young Master Luoya, your price is really too high. 18,000 gold coins is really our limit." Alvin's wrinkled old face looked extremely sincere, like a poor leek that didn't earn a penny. Luoya glanced at him and nodded with a smile. "Damn it, do you really think I'm that easy to harvest? Today, I will let you experience the sharpness of the feudal scythe." So that's how it is. Looks like the Sorofia branch in Akate City is still not big enough. What? With a slightly disappointed expression on his face, Luoya reached out and patted Alvin's chest. "President Alvin, I know that your branch's financial resources are limited, so I won't make it difficult for you. I will go to the holy capital for Her Royal Highness' birthday party in a while. I believe that the Sorofia branch in the holy capital should meet my needs." Luoya's words made Alvin's eyes widen, and then cold sweat dripped down his back. Wait, this isn't right. If what Luoya said was true, then Alvin was about to lose not only 2 sales that would make anyone envious, but also his evaluation in the entire Chamber of Commerce. The Holy Capital's theocracy headquarters was actually only half a level higher than Alvin, but they were indeed much richer than him. Considering Luoya's situation, the Holy Capital's theocracy headquarters was likely to accept his things, and then add fuel to the fire in the report to smear Alvin's internal competitor. Marquis Akate didn't sell things in Akate City but went to the Holy Capital instead. Is it because he likes to ride carriages? The headquarters couldn't even receive the things they urgently needed. Isn't this a problem? Not only would he fail to earn any merits, but he would also be criticized for being incompetent. This was something that Arvin could not accept no matter what, especially since the president of the Holy Capital's main store was an old friend of his. He had received a lot of care from the president when he was young. Thinking of this, the president gritted his teeth and gestured with his hand. Young Master Luoya, don't get too excited. How about this? I can make a promise. If there is no problem with the things, I am willing to pay 25,000 gold coins. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.